Secret marriage, my rich boss dotes on me. On the day her adoptive father forced her into marriage, Qingwan decisively went on a blind date and hastily married a complete stranger only to accidentally end up marrying her new boss. Chapter 1. It was midsummer, and the noon sky was stifling and humid, as if brewing a heavy downpour. Qingwan sat on the steps by the roadside, her eyes swollen and red. The hand clutching her handbag was injured, dried blood staining the wound in a striking shade of dark red. Ding! Hearing the notification sound, she furrowed her brows slightly and slowly took out her phone from her bag. As expected, besides Song Hyaming's message, "I'll give you 3 days to think about it. If you refuse to marry, don't ever come back." There was also a new notification from her work group chat: "You have been removed from the group." It was clear that the Song family was now using her job to force her into marrying President Liu, a man nearly 50 who had already lost 3 wives. Most of Jiangyuan City knew that Qingwan was the Song family's adopted daughter. Ever since she entered the Song household at the age of 5, she had been treated like a brick moved wherever they needed her. As a child, she was a mere background prop for Song Sijia at school. No matter how well she performed, she was never allowed to outshine her. As an adult, she was a stepping stone for Song Sicheng at work. No matter what trouble he caused, she was always the one to take the fall. Now that she was of marriageable age, the Song family sold her off in just a few words, all for the sake of a business deal. Song Sicheng, who had bullied her for years, even took on the stance of an elder brother and reprimanded her. "Our Song family has raised you for 18 years. It's time you repaid that kindness. Marry President Liu and help us secure this deal. You should feel lucky that President Liu has taken a liking to you. Once you marry him, you'll be a wealthy wife. What more could you ask for?" When Qingwan refused, Song Hyaming and Lin Sumei immediately stood up to accuse her of being ungrateful, calling her a heartless ingrate. In a fit of rage, she smashed a bowl, overturned the table, and stormed out. Thinking back, after years of living under someone else's roof, this was the first time she had ever resisted. Qingwan stared at Song Hyaming's message for a few seconds before a cold smile slowly appeared on her lips. Without hesitation, she exited the chat and searched for a seemingly reliable matchmaking website. After registering her information and setting her marriage criteria, she hailed a taxi straight to the central hospital. Her hand injury wasn't too severe and hadn't damaged any nerves. After a simple bandage treatment, she went to the first floor to get some medicine. Just as she was about to leave, an unfamiliar number called her phone. Due to work, she often dealt with clients, so she habitually answered unknown calls. Holding the medicine bag in one hand, she picked up. "Hello? Hello? Is this Miss Yi?" The voice on the other end sounded like a middle-aged woman in her 40s or 50s, warm, polite, and courteous. Qingwan responded with a simple yes. "And you are?" Confirming it was indeed Qingwan, the woman's voice brightened with excitement. "Miss Yi, hello. I'm a matchmaker from Marriage Now. The information you registered today caught the attention of a gentleman. The two of you seem highly compatible in terms of requirements. He would like to know when you'd be available to meet." Qingwan was momentarily stunned. She glanced at the time on her phone. It had been less than 2 hours since she signed up. Was this matchmaking service really that efficient? More importantly, she had specifically emphasized that she must register for marriage within 3 days. By logic, that should have been a tough request to fulfill. Yet, there was already a response. Noticing the silence on her end, the matchmaker prompted again, "Miss Yi. When would be a convenient time for you? This gentleman is also in Huaxi District, Jiangyuan City, so you're quite close to each other." Qingwan snapped out of her thoughts. 3 o'clock this afternoon. Jingtai Road Cafe. Great. I'll add you on WeChat shortly and send you his details. All right, thank you. After hanging up, Qingwan headed straight to the hospital restroom. With less than an hour left before the meeting, she stared at her disheveled reflection in the mirror. Most of her makeup was gone, and her light blue silk blouse was stained with blood. Time was tight. She did her best to wipe away the stains. When she couldn't get the cuffs clean, she simply rolled them up. Lacking makeup, she washed her face with cold water instead. Fortunately, her skin was naturally fair, and her delicate features were free of blemishes. Compared to her usual makeup, her bare face had a simple, refreshing elegance. The meeting place wasn't too far, just one left turn outside the central hospital. After freshening up, she rushed over. On their way, she accepted the matchmaker's friend request and glanced at the information of her blind date. Fu Jingyan, 28 years old. That was it? Just a few measly words. There wasn't even a photo. Yi Qingwan thought her phone was glitching, so she refreshed the page multiple times. When nothing changed, she finally called the matchmaker. After questioning the lack of details and photos, the matchmaker explained. This gentleman was matched with you through our headquarters, so he didn't register any additional information. As for photos, he doesn't like taking pictures, so there are none to share. He said you'd find out everything when you meet him. Was this matchmaking service a scam? How could they arrange a meeting without even verifying basic details? Was this reliable or not? Hanging up, Yi Qingwan couldn't help but grumble internally. But since she was in a hurry to get married, she had no choice but to go along with it. For safety reasons, she planned to arrive early and sit in an inconspicuous corner to observe first. However, when she pushed open the cafe door, she was caught off guard. What was usually a bustling cafe was nearly empty today, as if on the verge of shutting down. Aside from the barista preparing hand-brewed coffee, there was only one other customer, a well-dressed man sitting by the window. Judging from his back, he had a great physique. And if she wasn't mistaken, his deep grey suit was from an exclusive luxury brand. A strange premonition stirred in her heart. Could this be her blind date? Uncertain, she followed her instinct and approached the window seat, politely asking, "Excuse me, are you Mr. Fu Jingyan?" The man turned at the sound of her voice. The moment their eyes met, Yi Qingwan's heartbeat skipped a beat. Chapter 2. It was an almost perfect face. His features were as exquisite as if sculpted by a modeler. His deep-set eyes carried a hint of mixed heritage, and the half-rimmed gold wire glasses perched on his high, straight nose added an air of refined elegance, tempering the unique and formidable aura he exuded. "It's me." Fu Jingyan's voice was low and mellow, his demeanor cultured and courteous. "Miss Yi, please have a seat. Apologies for keeping you waiting." Yi Qingwan averted her gaze from Fu Jingyan, exchanged polite pleasantries, and pulled out a chair to sit across from him. Almost the moment she sat down, she faintly sensed the man across from her glancing at her injured hand. Feeling slightly awkward, she smiled and discreetly moved her hand under the table, resting it on her lap. To be honest, her blind date far exceeded her expectations. Just as she was beginning to question the authenticity of the situation, Fu Jingyan's lips curved slightly. "Miss Yi, your requirements for a spouse are stable income, average looks, good character, and the ability to accept marriage within 3 days, correct?" Yi Qingwan looked up and met his gaze. After a brief pause, she nodded. Receiving her confirmation, Fu Jingyan continued introducing himself. "I am a businessman. My income isn't very stable, but I have a certain amount of savings and real estate. As for my looks, I'd say they are average. As for my character, I can guarantee absolute loyalty in our marriage." At this point, he raised his wrist to check his watch. "If Miss Yi is satisfied with me, we can head to the Civil Affairs Bureau right now." Yi Qingwan recognized that what she had seen it in a luxury magazine before. It was a one-of-a-kind piece, custom-made by Patek Philippe for a charity auction, rumored to have been purchased at a high price by an anonymous billionaire. However, she found it hard to associate the 28-year-old man in front of her with the mysterious billionaire from the rumors. He was simply too young. An invisible tycoon should at least be a middle-aged man to be believable. Most importantly, a billionaire wouldn't be casually looking for a blind date on a matchmaking website for a flash marriage. Convincing herself that she had mistaken the watch, Yi Qingwan hurriedly clarified, "Wait. I am very satisfied with Mr. Fu, but I just don't quite understand why someone like you would choose to go on a blind date. A man this perfect should have plenty of admirers. A blind date? Could it be that he had some hidden ailment?" Fu Jingyan pressed his thin lips together and replied calmly, "I am very busy with work. This saves me time." Yi Qingwan had no objections to this answer. For someone fully devoted to their career, dating indeed could be time-consuming, and a blind date leading to a flash marriage wasn't unreasonable. Since she couldn't exactly say she was being forced into marriage, she decided to go with the flow. "In that case, we're on the same page. I also want to save time. But my situation." Her voice noticeably softened as she began to explain. "I was raised by adoptive parents. Due to certain circumstances, I have left my previous home, which means I don't have a fixed residence. Also, I just lost my job and will need some time to find a new one. As for savings, I have about 100,000 yuan. Yi Qingwan had worked as a management trainee at Song Corporation for a year. The salary for trainees wasn't high, so she hadn't saved much. The 100,000 yuan was mainly from when she temporarily filled in as deputy director of the marketing department 6 months ago. Fu Jingyan remained silent, his face expressionless. Feeling uneasy, Yi Qingwan quickly added, "But don't worry, I won't just sit back and do nothing. I'll contribute half of the household expenses in the future." She thought this clarification would prompt a response from Fu Jingyan. However, instead of saying anything, he simply stood up expressionlessly. Yi Qingwan assumed he was dissatisfied with her situation and was about to leave. Just as she was about to rise and politely bid him farewell, Fu Jingyan glanced at the handbag she had placed on the table. "Miss Yi, you brought your household registration book, didn't you?" I did." Startled, she looked up at him in confusion but still instinctively opened her bag to search for it. Since she was adopted, she wasn't registered in the Song family's household. She had anticipated being pressured into marriage, so she always carried her household registration book with her, afraid that the Song family might confiscate it. After retrieving it, Yi Qingwan hesitated slightly before looking at Fu Jingyan. Coincidentally, at that very moment, he was also looking at her. "Then let us go to the Civil Affairs Bureau now." Before Yi Qingwan could react, he strode out of the cafe with his long, straight legs. Seeing this, Yi Qingwan hurriedly grabbed her bag and chased after him. Fu Jingyan was very tall, almost 1.9 meters. Yi Qingwan wasn't short, but she still appeared quite petite beside him. Outside the cafe, Fu Jingyan walked toward a low-profile Maybach. Yi Qingwan was a bit surprised, as she hadn't noticed this car when she arrived earlier. As she hesitated in confusion, Fu Jingyan had already opened the passenger door. His slender fingers rested casually on the door frame, and his posture was relaxed yet effortlessly elegant. Feeling that everything was progressing too fast, Yi Qingwan hesitated and stopped beside him, reconfirming, "Mr. Fu, are you sure you want to marry me?" Fu Jingyan met her eyes with unwavering certainty. "I'm sure." Since he was sure, Yi Qingwan no longer hesitated. From getting in the car to arriving at the Civil Affairs Bureau, completing the registration, and receiving their marriage certificates, everything happened seamlessly. As they walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Yi Qingwan rubbed her fingers over the marriage certificate in her hand, still finding it hard to believe. It had all happened too fast. She had only decided to get married at noon, and before nightfall, she was already married. Still, flash marriage didn't feel too bad except that, she wasn't familiar with her husband yet. Yi Qingwan glanced at Fu Jingyan from the corner of her eye, internally debating how to address him. Calling him Mr. Fu felt too distant, but calling him husband was too embarrassing. After much internal struggle, she finally spoke awkwardly, Jingyan. Hearing this, Fu Jingyan turned his head slightly and handed her a card. "Take this. Spend the money however you like. No need to inform me. Buy whatever you want." Before Yi Qingwan could refuse, he handed her a car key as well. "For now, use this car. If you don't like it, there are others. Oh, do you know how to drive? If not, I'll arrange for a driver." I can drive." Yi Qingwan was caught off guard by his generosity and instinctively tried to return the card. No, I can take the subway to work. As for money, I have enough. We're married now. What's mine is yours." Fu Jingyan flipped over her palm, placing the card and key into it, then naturally took her phone. Yi Qingwan didn't know what he was doing, but she still softly recited her phone password. Fu Jingyan unlocked her screen, typed something in, and instructed, "If you don't mind, move in with me at Shanghai Yinju. The penthouse. The door code has been changed to your birthday. My work schedule is unpredictable, but no matter how late it gets, I'll always come home." By the time he finished speaking, he had already returned her phone. "Contact me anytime. I have work to do now. See you tonight." Before Yi Qingwan could say anything, Fu Jingyan had already stepped into a black business car parked outside the Civil Affairs Bureau. She opened her mouth slightly and looked down at her phone. At the top of her contacts list, a newly pinned WeChat contact read, "Husband." Chapter 3. The air was extremely humid and stuffy, and the sky, which had been weighed down by dark clouds for a long time, finally couldn't help but let out a loud thunder. Before the rain started, Yi Qingwan put away the marriage certificate and drove away from the Civil Affairs Bureau in the Maybach left by Fu Jingyan. Fortunately, it was not rush hour, so the road was relatively smooth. It only took 10 minutes to drive from the Civil Affairs Bureau to Shanghai Yinzhu. Shanghai Yinzhu is located in the center of Gangwon City. The single-building skyscraper reaches the sky. It is said that the reason why it is called Shanghai Yinzhu is because of the amazing view. During the day, it feels like walking on the clouds, and at night you can fall asleep under the starlight. Because of this selling point, the housing prices in Shanghai Yinzhu once soared to the top of Jiangyuan City. And the higher the floor, the more expensive the house price. Thinking of this, Yi Qingwan couldn't help but become curious. What kind of business does her husband, who she married so quickly, do to be able to afford the penthouse at Shanghai Yinzhu? Before she could think about it, the security guard at the door recognized the license plate number, quickly opened the door, and saluted in the direction of the car. Yi Qingwan drove straight in, parked the car, and then drove around twice before finding the elevator. Because the top floor is different from other floors, there is one elevator per household, and you have to take a separate private elevator to go up. Finally finding the right door, Yi Qingwan tentatively entered his birthday into the combination lock. After an electronic sound, the door lock actually opened. Just as she was secretly praising her flash-married husband for his thoughtfulness, the housekeeper opened the door with a smile on her face. "Madam, you're back." The word "madam" made Yi Qingwan's ears turn red. She smiled faintly and walked in. As soon as she entered the door, the housekeeping aunt brought slippers and squatted down to help Yi Qingwan change her shoes. In the past in the Song family, nannies and servants only took care of the Song family. Because Yi Qingwan was an adopted daughter, she not only had a low status but also had no say at home, so they simply ignored her. For 18 years, Yi Qingwan has washed her own clothes and cleaned her own room. So at this moment, looking at the housekeeper squatting at her feet, she felt a little uncomfortable and subconsciously refused. "Thank you, I can do it myself." As if she noticed Yi Qingwan's reservedness, the housekeeper stopped what she was doing, stood up and smiled kindly. "Madam, my last name is Zhang. I am responsible for taking care of your and your husband's daily life. If you need anything in the future, just call me." Yi Qingwan changed into slippers, straightened up, and smiled at Aunt Zhang. "Okay. The meal is ready. My husband told you to eat first and he will be back later. Daily necessities and new clothes have also been prepared. If you need anything else, please tell me." After saying this, Aunt Zhang did not follow. Yi Qingwan walked in from the entrance hall and couldn't help but sigh inwardly as he looked at their new home in front of him. The house is very big, with Italian decoration style and dark tones throughout. It looks simple but luxurious. Even the picture frames in the small corners seem to be carefully arranged and expensive. The top floor has a 360-degree panoramic floor-to-ceiling window. Standing in the living room and looking out the window, you can clearly see lightning jumping in the dark clouds. If it wasn't cloudy and rainy, it would really be like walking on clouds and reaching for the stars, as the rumors say, right? Thinking this, Yi Qingwan walked to the restaurant. The day's experiences were so complicated that she even forgot that she hadn't eaten much since last night. Looking at the exquisite dishes still steaming on the table, Yi Qingwan couldn't help but pull out a stool and sit down. Just as she had filled a bowl of soup, her cell phone rang. She quickly put down the bowl and took out her cell phone to answer it. But before he could open his mouth to say anything, he heard a loud shout from the other end of the phone. "Yi Xiaowan. Let's break up. I actually learned about such a big thing from someone else. How come you resigned right after I left on a business trip? You didn't even take me with you. You're so mean." Yi Qingwan frowned and rubbed his ears. "Zhu Qian, why are you calling with such a loud voice? You can shout directly to the sky from Yinzhu, and I can hear it in Jiangyuan." I'm just anxious. What's going on? Tell the truth." Zhu Qian heard the fatigue in Yi Qingwan's voice and softened his voice obviously, but he still had some emotions. Yi Qingwan leaned back in her chair and took a long breath. She closed her eyes and raised her hand to press her forehead. "I didn't quit. The Song family wanted to marry me to Mr. Liu from Wan Heng in exchange for the Beijing project. I didn't agree, so they used my job to force me to compromise. Then I ran away. To prevent future troubles, I went on a blind date in the afternoon and got married. I had just sat down to eat after a day of hard work. I had planned to call you after dinner. Listening to Qingwan narrating the most exciting experience in the calmest tone, Zhu Qiu on the other end of the phone was stunned, and it seemed as if his brain had crashed and he didn't react for a long time. But when he realized that Qingwan had experienced forced marriage, being fired, blind dating and marriage in just one day, all his resentment disappeared instantly. "Oh my goodness, I just went out on a business trip, you. Zhu Qian stuttered a little, and for a moment he didn't know where to start. Qingwan was not in a hurry. While he was organizing his words, she finished the soup in the bowl and served herself a bowl of rice. The person on the other end of the phone stuttered for a long time before finally saying a complete sentence. "Everything else is secondary. Tell me first, who did you marry?" Qingwan swallowed the food in his mouth and said, "A businessman." "Businessman? What kind of business? Where are the high-quality men for blind dates now? How old are they? Don't you have a beer belly and bald spots?" Zhu Qian was worried like an old woman. "You said you are just in your prime, and you can get married right away. You can get married, but you should date more people." Listening to the concern on the phone, Qingwan smiled and responded patiently, "I don't know what business he is in. He is 5 years older than me, and he doesn't have a beer belly or a bald head. He is already of very high quality." After hanging up the phone, Qingwan was almost full, so he stood up and prepared to clean up the dishes. Seeing this, Aunt Zhang hurried over and said, "Madam, I'll take care of these. I've prepared the hot water for you. Go take a bath. But your hands are injured, so be careful not to get them wet." Qingwan handed the dishes and chopsticks in his hand to Aunt Zhang a little embarrassedly. "Sorry for the trouble." It's not a trouble. This is what I should do," Aunt Zhang said. After leaving the restaurant and going to the bathroom, Qingwan stood in front of the sink, stared at the mirror for a while, then took off his clothes and soaked himself in the bathtub. All the fatigue was finally relieved the moment I touched the hot water. After closing his eyes and thinking for a moment, Qingwan picked up his mobile phone and opened the recruitment software. The Song Group mainly deals in mid-range luxury goods. Qingwan worked in the marketing department during her time there. Based on her work experience, she submitted more than a dozen resumes in related fields. However, based on her understanding of the Song family would definitely not let her find a job easily. The Song Group has some influence in Jiangyuan City. If they want to ban her, a small figure with little experience in the same industry, it would only take a word. Just in case, Qingwan submitted several resumes in other industries and hid his work experience at the Song Group. After finishing all this, she stood up, wrapped herself in a bath towel, and walked out of the bathtub with her slender legs. Her snow-white skin was slightly pink after being soaked in hot water. Her long hair was spread out on her shoulders, with a few drops of water faintly dripping from the ends of her hair. Qingwan glanced around and realized that she had not brought in any change of clothes. Thinking that Fu Jingyan might not be back at this time, it should be in time to go out and get clothes. So she recalled the approximate location of the cloakroom and walked out of the bathroom wrapped in a bath towel. I thought that what Aunt Zhang said about having prepared clothes were just a few temporary replacements, but I didn't expect that the latest styles of the season from major luxury brands filled nearly half of the cloakroom, and even the tags were not taken off. Qingwan casually flipped through a few pieces and found that the clothes and shoes were all her sizes, and even the size of the underwear was just right. If remembering her birthday is thoughtful, then how do you explain these? I knew her clothes and shoe sizes, even her underwear, within half a day of meeting her. Qingwan took off a white silk nightgown with doubt in her eyes, and was about to slip out of the cloakroom to change clothes in the bathroom. Unexpectedly, as soon as she turned around, her wet slippers slipped and she fell forward. Just as she was about to come into close contact with the ground, a strong arm wrapped around her slender waist. "Be careful." A familiar deep voice followed. Chapter 4. Qingwan used the force to steady his body, and when he raised his head in panic, his pupils couldn't help but shrink. The face that had amazed her at first sight was now only a few centimeters away from her. His dark eyes were bottomless, as if one would fall into them if he looked at them for one more moment. Under the strong visual impact, Qingwan was stunned for a few seconds before coming to his senses. You're back." She tightly grasped the loose bath towel and reflexively distanced herself from Fu Jingyan. Fu Jingyan's expression restrained slightly, and he hummed softly. His eyes then fell on the hand on Yi Qingwan's chest. The originally dry gauze was mostly soaked with water. I don't know if it was because the wound had split, but a faint red color appeared under the gauze. Fu Jingyan frowned and was about to raise his hand to check, but Yi Qingwan immediately stepped back and uncomfortably covered her chest with her pajamas. She was only wearing a bath towel and thought Fu Jingyan was going to do something, but she didn't know that he just wanted to check her injuries. I'll go change my clothes first. The sudden closeness caused her heart to beat faster. She lowered her head and quickly left the cloakroom. Fu Jingyan stood there for a few seconds, then slowly withdrew his hand. In the bathroom, Yi Qingwan, who had changed her clothes, began to talk to herself in front of the mirror. You two have already obtained a marriage certificate and are now a husband and wife relationship protected by the law. Why are you shy, Yi Qingwan? He is your husband now, and today is your wedding night. It's normal for him to want to take things a step further. You have to go to bed sooner or later anyway. She rubbed her hot cheeks, prepared herself mentally, took a deep breath, pushed the door open and walked out. When Yi Qingwan entered the room, Fu Jingyan was looking for something in the cabinet. Looking at his slightly anxious back, combined with his actions in the cloakroom just now, Yi Qingwan's first reaction was that he was looking for a condom. No idea what was going on in her head, but Yi Qingwan walked over and gently put her arms around Fu Jingyan's waist. The moment he was embraced by the soft and warm hands, Fu Jingyan was slightly stunned and stopped what he was doing. Behind him, Yi Qingwan's heart was beating wildly, and her soft voice was trembling a little. No need to look for it, I can. As soon as the words came out, Fu Jingyan instantly realized that Yi Qingwan had misunderstood. However, without waiting for an explanation, the hands on his waist slowly loosened again. The next second, Yi Qingwan tentatively walked in front of Fu Jingyan, then stood on tiptoe, hugged his neck unskillfully, closed her eyes, and moved closer little by little. Fu Jingyan lowered his eyes and looked at her, a doting smile on the corner of his lips. Just when Yi Qingwan was about to kiss him, he gently grasped her wrist and helped her to the bed. Sit still and don't move. When the magnetic voice with a commanding tone reached Yi Qingwan's ears, her cheeks turned red. Not sure if she was nervous or shy, she lowered her head, not daring to look directly into Fu Jingyan's eyes, but at this moment her mind was frantically thinking about what to do next. She is an adult, and although she has no experience in that area, she still has some idea about it. In the past, when Zhu Qian took the lead in talking about dirty things, she had talked a lot. But that was just talk. When it came to the actual fight, she had a hard time even overcoming the defense line in her heart. But in order to have a more harmonious married life in the future, she must not let down this first time. Even if she didn't do so well, she couldn't let Fu Jingyan feel too bad. However, when Yi Qingwan was wondering whether to take the initiative to respond or to remain silent, the next second, Fu Jingyan sat down next to her with a medical box. Yi Qingwan's thoughts were interrupted, ? Fu Jingyan pulled her hand over, gently unwrapped the dirty gauze, then took out the medicine and carefully applied it on the wound. Does it hurt? Fu Jingyan asked in a low voice. Yi Qingwan stared at Fu Jingyan's profile and shook his head woodenly. It doesn't hurt. Looking at the man beside her who was applying the medicine seriously, Yi Qingwan felt indescribable embarrassment in her heart. Thinking back to the yellow garbage in her mind just now, she couldn't help but spit on herself. After bandaging the wound, Fu Jingyan went to take a shower, leaving Yi Qingwan alone in the room. She lay on the soft big bed and rolled back and forth a few times. The more she thought about it, the more embarrassed she felt. I wanted to wait for Fu Jingyan to come out and then take the next step depending on the situation, but I couldn't resist the sleepiness and fell asleep in a daze. The next morning, Yi Qingwan was awakened by the morning sunlight. She rubbed her sleepy eyes and looked out the window at the golden sea of clouds in a half-asleep state. Sure enough, Shanghai Yinzhu lives up to its reputation. It's so beautiful. Etc. After just 3 seconds of being immersed in the beautiful scenery, Yi Qingwan suddenly sat up and immediately shifted his gaze to the bed beside him. A corner of the silver-gray silk quilt was lifted up, and it was no longer as flat as it was last night. Her brain, which had just been turned on, was vaguely telling her that this was a sign that someone had slept there. That's right, Fu Jingyan slept next to her yesterday. After confirming this, Yi Qingwan quickly lifted the quilt to check. Chapter 5. But when she found that her nightgown was still intact and there was nothing wrong with her body, she had an indescribable feeling in her heart. Maybe it's a feeling of relief mixed with a little bit of disappointment. She boasted that she had a good appearance and a good figure, with the flesh growing in the right places and no extra fat in the right slender places, and the pajamas were not a conservative style. Under such circumstances, Fu Jingnian did nothing that night. His composure is commendable. Is it because I look so ugly when I sleep? He is not interested in me after seeing me? Or does he really have some hidden illness, as I guessed during the blind date? Yi Qingwan shook his head and put his guess behind him for the time being. She has to go out quickly because she has several companies to interview with today. After washing up, Yi Qingwan put on some light makeup, tied her hair up and pinned it at the back of her head, and then chose a more formal outfit to change into. By the time she had gotten herself ready, Aunt Zhang had already prepared breakfast. After asking, Yi Qingwan learned that Fu Jingnian had gone out very early and he seemed to be in a good mood today. Seeing that Yi Qingwan was in much better condition today than when she came yesterday, Aunt Zhang smiled and joked, "It's different after getting married. The young couple is so happy." Yi Qingwan smiled back and didn't talk any more. He ate a few bites quickly and hurried downstairs. Because he was going to a job interview, Yi Qingwan did not drive the Maybach. Even though the model was a low-key one, it was still a bit too flashy. Taking advantage of the fact that she had plenty of time, she took a taxi. In addition to the company she had notified her of the interview yesterday, she received another call on the way. It was the HR from Qingwan department store who called to inform her that she would be interviewing for a position in the investment promotion department. Because his resume and experience were all in the direction of marketing, Yi Qingwan did not have any expectations for a position in this high-end shopping mall, so he temporarily focused on the previous few companies. Because it rained, the air today is particularly fresh. Yi Qingwan took a few breaths of fresh air, adjusted his state, and walked into the door of the first company. The first company she interviewed was about the same size as the Song Group, and its main business was also mid-range luxury goods. Since the two families are rivals, Yi Qingwan still has confidence. There were a total of 8 people interviewing for the marketing department position today, and Yi Qingwan was the 7th. However, because the 8th person had something urgent to do and couldn't come, Yi Qingwan became the last one. By the time it was her turn, it was already 11:30 in the afternoon. However, the HR of this company was very dedicated and did not get tired of talking to him even when it was almost time to get off work. The communication between the two of us during the interview was very pleasant. For this company, they really need talents like Yi Qingwan. Graduating from a prestigious university is secondary. The key point is that she knows the Song Group well enough. If you want to eliminate your competitors, Yi Qingwan is the best choice. Soon after the interview, Yi Qingwan received a call from the company's HR. But it was not good news. "Hello, Ms. Yi, your performance is excellent and meets our recruitment requirements in all aspects, but I am sorry that we cannot hire you." Yi Qingwan was mentally prepared. After giving a brief response, she hung up the phone silently. If one doesn't work, try the next one. Jiangyuan City is so big that she can always find a job. Until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Yi Qingwan had interviewed 3 companies in total, and the results were surprisingly consistent. Several hours used the same rejection words: "Ms. Yi, you meet our recruitment requirements in every aspect, but I'm sorry, we can't hire you." Yi Qingwan was clear-headed and realized that this was all Song Hyaming's trick. Therefore, she will only become more courageous after facing more setbacks. After running around all day, Yi Qingwan's ankle was almost broken. There was still half an hour before the next interview, so she sat on a lounge chair at the bottom of the Qingwan department store, planning to rest for a few minutes before going upstairs. Just as I was about to take out my cell phone to call Zhu Qian back, a familiar and disgusting voice came to my ears. "Don't waste your energy. No company will hire you." Chapter 6. Song Sikhen, holding the arm of a woman in a bright red dress, walked towards Yi Qingwan with a look of contempt on his face. Yi Qingwan recognized the woman next to him. She was her former subordinate, Li Linlin. It was obvious that the relationship between the two was not simple now, but it had nothing to do with her and she didn't care. In order to avoid delaying the interview due to unnecessary people, Yi Qingwan stood up and prepared to leave, but Song Sikhen had no intention of letting her go. Instead, he stepped forward and blocked her way. "Don't be in such a hurry to leave. Don't you even say hello to your brother when you see him, sister." Song Sikhen deliberately emphasized the word sister, then glanced at Yi Qingwan and said with a wry smile, "Look at how shabby you are now. You don't even have a decent piece of clothing for the interview. No wonder no company hired you. The clothes that Fu Jingyan prepared for Yi Qingwan were basically new models that had not yet been released, so they were not available on the market. Song Sikhen couldn't recognize them, and Yi Qingwan didn't intend to explain. She raised her head and glanced at her brother in front of her, her eyes showing a rare coldness. Since you like blocking people's way so much, why don't you just act as a roadblock? After saying that, he walked straight past Song Sikhen. The cooperation discussions at Kaishan today were not going very smoothly. Song Sikhen was feeling quite angry. He wanted to take the opportunity to make fun of Yi Qingwan to cheer her up, but he didn't expect to be frustrated before he even started. Yi Qingwan. Song Sikhen grabbed Yi Qingwan's sleeve unhappily and used brute force to pull him back. I advise you to compromise as soon as possible. My father just said one word. Now no one in the entire Jiangyuan city dares to hire you. Do you have any better choice now besides marrying Mr. Liu? If you agree to marry Mr. Liu, I can give you an offer from the Song Group right now. Song Sikhen stroked Li Linlin's hand and smiled. It's just that Linlin is already the deputy manager of the marketing department, and now she only has a grassroots position. It shouldn't matter what position you take, right? Li Linlin smiled charmingly and glanced at Yi Qingwan. If she really marries Liu Jichun, she won't need our Song Group's work anymore. She can just go home and be a rich wife. In the past 18 years, Yi Qingwan has become accustomed to being mocked and abused by the Song family, so at this moment, she was not moved at all by what Song Sikhen and Li Linlin said, and even sneered. You're not still dreaming about marrying into the Song family, are you? Yi Qingwan's words hit the nail on the head. Li Linlin's expression changed instantly. You? Yi Qingwan did not give her a chance to refute. The girl next to you has more women around her than clothes. I have seen a lot of women who are prettier than you, have better figures than you, and have better family backgrounds than you. You will be dumped sooner or later anyway, so why not do this? Yi Qingwan pretended to think seriously for 2 seconds, then smiled. Let him introduce you to someone else. You can marry Liu Jichun, make contributions to the Song Group, and not only get a promotion and a raise, but you can also become a rich wife. It's the best of both worlds. After she finished speaking, she gave him a look that said, think about it, and walked into Triumph department store without looking back. Li Linlin stamped her feet in anger. She tugged at Song Sichen's arm in annoyance. Sikhen. You take care of this. Song Sikhen glared at Li Linlin in annoyance, pointed at Yi Qingwan's back and cursed at her several times. But Yi Qingwan closed his ears and ignored it at all. His mind had already turned into interview communication skills. Having failed in the previous rounds of interviews, Yi Qingwan felt somewhat scared. But before she came, she had specifically learned that Wanheng International covers many industries, and Triumph Department Store is a major branch of Wanheng International, a high-end department store specializing in luxury goods. So no matter how long Song Hyaming's arms are, they cannot reach the territory of Triumph Department Store. However, as a senior executive of a branch of Wanheng Group, Liu Jichun is very likely in cahoots with Song Hyaming and planning to trip him up. Yi Qingwan adjusted his breathing and tried hard to suppress the distracting thoughts in his mind. Seeing that the elevator was about to close, she quickly ran over and pressed the elevator button. Sorry. As soon as the door opened, Yi Qingwan dove in. A strong scent of perfume hit her in the face, and she subconsciously looked up and saw a man with a delicate appearance, wearing a gold-striped suit. Mr. Jing, Fu. Before he could finish his words, the assistant beside the man frowned and glanced at Yi Qingwan. After hearing the words, Mr. Jing, Yi Qingwan hurriedly turned around and lowered his head. Combining the appearance and age of the man behind him, as well as the title, Mr. Jing, Yi Qingwan boldly guessed that this man was the executive CEO of Kaishan department store Jing Nanqing. Not only did he barge into the president's elevator, he also interrupted his assistant's itinerary report. Yi Qingwan's heart skipped a beat. Damn it, my interview won't be ruined because of this. Seeing that the elevator door was about to close, Yi Qingwan had no intention of going down, and the assistant behind him coughed lightly. Miss, this is the CEO's special elevator, you. It's okay. Jing Nanqing gave the assistant a look, and the assistant shut up instantly. Elevator dedicated to the CEO? It's even worse. I'm really sorry. This is my first time here. I'm sorry. Although Jing Nanqing said it was okay, Yi Qingwan still hurriedly pressed the elevator door open button and rushed out without even daring to look back. Looking at Yi Qingwan's fleeing back, Jing Nanxing raised his eyebrows, then turned his head to look at the assistant. Do I look scary? The little assistant lowered his head silently. Jing Nanxing took out his cell phone, looked at his handsome face through the screen, and said to himself, TSK, much gentler than my nephew, right? The little assistant buried his head even lower. Yi Qingwan ran into the general elevator panting, and when he reached the interview floor, it was exactly the agreed time. Different from the hours of several other companies, the interviewers from Triumph International were very aloof. It took less than 10 minutes from the time I entered until the time I came out of the interview. The questions asked by the interviewer were also very simple. In addition to Yi Qingwan's understanding of the company and future plans, he only asked whether she was married. Although Yi Qingwan knew that many industries now did not want to hire married people, she did not want to hide her marital status, so she readily said that she was married. Even though the final result is likely to be affected by this answer. After walking out of Triumph department store, Yi Qingwan felt like a deflated ball, so tired that he didn't even want to take a step. After wearing high heels for a day, the forefoot hurts as if I stepped on a knife. In order to ensure that she could walk normally tomorrow, she simply took off her high heels and walked barefoot on the ground. But before he had taken a few steps, Yi Qingwan suddenly felt a tightening around his waist, and then his feet were lifted off the air and someone picked him up by the waist. Yi Qingwan! Exclamation point. Just as she was frightened and about to struggle, Fu Jingnian's voice instantly brought her back to calm. 1-1. Chapter 7. Fu Jingnian has a nice voice. The word 1-1 sounded gentle and doting when it came out of his mouth. Yi Qingwan looked up in surprise, stared at Fu Jingnian's profile for 2 seconds, and said dully, Why are you here? I was in a meeting nearby and just happened to see you when I came out. Fu Jingnian lowered his eyes and looked at Yi Qingwan, with a smile on his lips. Yi Qingwan hummed lightly, retracted his gaze and nodded slightly. Probably due to years of fitness, Fu Jingnian's shoulders are very broad and his muscles are very strong. I feel very safe when he holds me like this. Moreover, the woody scent on his body mixed with a hint of tobacco perfectly displays the unique charm of an adult male. But it was the first time that Yi Qingwan was hugged by a man like this, and she was a little uncomfortable. After a few seconds of intoxication, she opened her red lips slightly. I can walk, please put me down. Fu Jingnian just chuckled and didn't mean to let her go. Call me next time and I'll pick you up. He didn't ask her why she didn't drive, nor did he ask any other irrelevant questions, but said that if she called him next time, he would pick her up. Yi Qingwan felt warm in his heart, and his affection for her instantly doubled. You are busy with work, and I don't want to disturb you because of these little things. There's still time to pick you up. Fu Jingnian slightly pushed him up, and Yi Qingwan subconsciously hugged his neck. Fu Jingnian curled his lips in satisfaction. Besides, picking you up is not a small matter. The distance between the two was very close at this moment, and Yi Qingwan could clearly feel Fu Jingnian's warm breath on her ears. Her cheeks were so hot that her whole body was red. Fu Jingnian noticed something strange about the person in his arms, smiled, quickened his pace, and walked towards the black business car parked on the side of the road. When the driver opened the car door and returned to the driving seat, he consciously raised the partition. The car was very spacious. Fu Jingnian sat lazily on the leather seat, with the sleeves of his white shirt casually rolled up, and the protruding blue veins on his forearms could be clearly seen. His legs were naturally crossed, his posture was noble and elegant, and with that impeccable face, he looked like a rich young man who walked out of a comic book. In the closed space, Yi Qingwan glanced at the man next to her and felt her cheeks getting hotter and hotter. She forced herself to look away, but couldn't help but wonder in her heart. Yi Qingwan. That's your husband. You two have a license. Why don't you watch it openly? Why are you doing it secretly? Just as Yi Qingwan was talking to herself in her heart, Fu Jingnian broke the silence and asked, What do you want to eat tonight? Yi Qingwan was stunned for a moment, then blurted out, Linian Road spicy hot pot. She really wanted to eat it, but after saying these words, Yi Qingwan regretted it. Because Fu Jingnian doesn't look like the kind of person who would eat roadside spicy hot pot. She pursed her lips and changed her words, Why don't we go home and eat? Fu Jingnian didn't say anything, but raised his hand and pressed the button next to the seat. The next second, the partition in the car opened, and the driver looked over from the rearview mirror. Fu Jingyan said 3 words, Boulevard Road. Yi Qingwan looked quite surprised, but felt warm in her heart. Growing up, few people cared about her choices and preferences. Apart from her best friend Zhu Qiu, Fu Jingyan was the first one. After arriving at the Malatang restaurant on Linyan Road, Yi Qingwan greeted the boss familiarly and then chose a seat nearby where there were fewer people. Fu Jingyan's suit looks very expensive, and one can also feel from looking at his house that he may have some misophobia. So Yi Qingwan took out a tissue from her bag and was about to wipe the stool, but unexpectedly Fu Jingyan took the tissue from her hand naturally and said, "Your hand injury hasn't healed yet, let me do it." Looking at Fu Jingyan who was helping her wipe the stool, Yi Qingwan seemed to want to say something but stopped herself. At this time, the boss came over and greeted him as usual. "It's been a long time since you came. Are you still here like usual today?" Halfway through the conversation, the boss noticed the man next to Yi Qingwan and couldn't help but praise him. "Is this your husband? The young man is so handsome. He looks like a big star on TV." Yi Qingwan smiled shyly and turned to look at Fu Jingyan beside her. "Do you want to eat anything?" Fu Jingyan looked at the boss and said, "Just give me the same thing my wife usually eats." The boss made an okay gesture and said, "Okay." While waiting for the meal, Yi Qingwan wiped the dishes as many times as possible, worried that Fu Jingyan would not be used to it. But unexpectedly, when the meal was served, Fu Jingyan did not show any disgust, but ate it with relish. Seeing how happily he was eating, Yi Qingwan also started eating with peace of mind. Because they were outdoors, after eating, Fu Jingyan took out a cigarette box from his pocket, took out a cigarette and put it to his mouth. He did not light it immediately, but looked at Yi Qingwan, as if asking for her consent. Yi Qingwan didn't hate the smell of cigarettes. After realizing what Fu Jingyan meant, she curled her eyes and said, "I don't mind. You can smoke." After asking for his wife's permission, Fu Jingyan took out his lighter and lit it. He took a puff of cigarette, as if he had seen through Yi Qingwan's thoughts, and said calmly, "If you have anything that makes you unhappy, you can tell me, don't keep it in your heart alone." When he heard this, Yi Qingwan slowly put down the chopsticks in his hand. She was used to keeping things in her heart, but after hearing Fu Jingyan's words, she actually wanted to pour it out. Yi Qingwan hesitated for a while and sighed. Because of the previous family problems, today's interview was not very smooth, especially the Triumph department store. "I was worried about being late, so I accidentally entered the wrong elevator for CEOs. It just so happened that CEO Jing from Qingwan department store was in the elevator, and he was talking to his assistant at the time, but I interrupted him, so I ran out while saying sorry." Recalling the scene at that time, Yi Qingwan had a sad face. "Then I went upstairs for the interview. The interviewer was very cold when he interviewed me. It ended in a few minutes and I was asked to leave. I don't know if it was because I accidentally walked into the elevator that Mr. Jing got angry, so." When mentioning the elevator incident, Fu Jingyan instantly remembered today in the president's office, when Jing Nanqing looked at herself in the mirror with a sad face and complained to him. "When I was going upstairs, a very pretty girl got into the wrong elevator, and guess what? When she saw me, she ran out like she had seen a ghost." After saying that, he repeatedly admired the face full of excellent genes, smacking his lips and said, "TSK, I'm so handsome, it shouldn't be." Thinking of this, Fu Jingyan smiled and took another puff of cigarette. "I'm not sure about other companies, but the interviewers at Qingwan department store are always fair and just. They won't treat you differently because of these little things. Have some confidence in yourself, and you will be fine." "Really?" There was suddenly a glimmer of light in Yi Qingwan's eyes. Fu Jingyan smiled and nodded, put out his cigarette, and stood up to pay the bill. Not long after he left, a message popped up in Yi Qingwan's mobile mailbox. "It is an offer from Qingwan department store." Chapter 8. Yi Qingwan's pupils trembled, and she couldn't believe it. When she clicked to confirm, she jumped up excitedly. Fu Jingyan paid the bill and came back to her. Just as he was about to ask, Yi Qingwan hugged him excitedly. "I'm hired. I'm hired." The moment he was hugged, Fu Jingyan was stunned for a moment, almost imperceptibly. He smiled and patted Yi Qingwan's back. "Congratulations." After the excitement, Yi Qingwan found that other customers in the store were looking at her and laughing. Only then did she realize that she was almost completely dependent on Fu Jingyan. She came to her senses and quickly let go of her hand. Fu Jingyan was not surprised by Yi Qingwan's sudden distance. After all, although they were now legally married, they actually had no emotional basis. Even if there is, it is only one-sided on his part. But they still have a long time to live together, and their feelings can be cultivated slowly. He will always win her heart. Fu Jingyan was silent for a few seconds, then raised his eyebrows slightly. Let's go home. There was no emotion in this sentence, but Yi Qingwan knew that his subconscious action just now was very embarrassing. Just because Fu Jingyan showed no reaction on his face doesn't mean he didn't feel it in his heart. She wanted to say a few words to make amends, but was afraid that the more she explained, the worse it would be. So, in order to make Fu Jingyan feel better, Yi Qingwan plucked up some courage and held his hand. Well, go home, she said gently. Fu Jingyan's hands were big, with long, slender fingers and distinct joints. Before touching, Yi Qingwan was a little nervous, but his palms were very warm, and the moment she really held them, she felt at ease. Fu Jingyan didn't look down, but just felt the warmth of her palm and walked towards the car. I don't know if it was an illusion, but Yi Qingwan seemed to see him smile. After returning to Shanghai Yinju, the two went to the bathroom to take a hot shower to relieve their fatigue. When Yi Qingwan came out, Fu Jingyan had already finished washing and was now making a phone call on the balcony of his bedroom. The black nightgown hung loosely on him, revealing half of his strong and straight calves, with clear lines on his chest and abdomen. He was not wearing glasses, and his hair was half-dried, with a few slightly longer strands of hair covering his eyes. Compared with his previous mature looks, he now looks a little more youthful and approachable. Seeing Yi Qingwan enter the bedroom, Fu Jingyan hung up the phone hastily, and then took out the medicine box to change her medicine like he did yesterday. The wound healed fairly quickly and had basically scabbed over. But because the wound was on the palm of her hand and was easily touched, Fu Jingyan still wrapped it with 2 thin layers of gauze. After changing the medicine, Fu Jingyan asked in a low voice, "Do you want to sleep?" Sleep. Yi Qingwan didn't even think about this answer. After he finished speaking, I slowly guessed what kind of sleep he was talking about. Yi Qingwan raised her head stiffly, wanting to get the answer from Fu Jingyan's eyes, but when she saw the charming face in front of her, her mind began to wander uncontrollably. She lowered her eyes and tried to look away, but her gaze accidentally fell on the chest exposed by the collar of his nightgown. Seeing Yi Qingwan's face and neck turning red at a speed visible to the naked eye, Fu Jingyan instantly guessed what she was thinking. Then lie down and I'll turn off the light. Yi Qingwan was stunned for a moment, then after coming to his senses, he quickly curled up in the quilt and lay down. Looking at the small bulge on the bed, Fu Jingyan silently turned off the light. The room fell into darkness, and Yi Qingwan felt someone lying down beside her, and her body tensed up. Although she knew that Fu Jingyan had no intention of doing anything with her, her heart still beat fast. Just when Yi Qingwan was ready to fight back and was about to tell him, "We are husband and wife. If you have any needs in the future, you can tell me directly. I won't refuse." Fu Jingyan said in a sleepy voice, "Good night, Wanwan." With the word "good night," Yi Qingwan's thoughts came to an abrupt end. Good night. Troubled by the two questions of "Is he incapable?" and "Am I thinking too much?" Yi Qingwan successfully fell asleep just before dawn. So much so that the alarm clock rang for a long time in the morning before she reached out to turn it off. After forcing herself out of her sleepiness, she turned her head to look at the other half of the bed. Just like yesterday morning, Fu Jingyan should have left. Rushing to report to the new company, Yi Qingwan washed, put on makeup, and changed clothes as quickly as possible. When I walked into the living room, I found that Fu Jingyan was sitting in the restaurant eating breakfast, glancing at the computer from time to time. It turns out that he hasn't gone to work today. Working from home? No, she remembered that Fu Jingyan said yesterday that he had a meeting near Kaishan shopping mall, so his workplace should be very close to there. So, you are waiting for her to go together? Just as he was guessing, Fu Jingyan's gaze moved from the computer screen to Yi Qingwan. Let's go together after breakfast. It's on our way. I'll take you there. Good. While Yi Qingwan was having breakfast, Fu Jingyan was already dressed. Today he wore a very stylish beige suit, the same color as Yi Qingwan's skirt. Yi Qingwan didn't notice it at first, until she got into the car. She found out that their clothes were matching couple colors. After about 15 minutes, the car had already arrived near the Kaishan commercial building. Considering the heavy traffic nearby and worrying that Fu Jingyan would delay sending her, Yi Qingwan got off the car early. When they arrived at the Kaishan department store office building, the interviewer who looked very aloof yesterday took Yi Qingwan to the investment promotion department. The investment promotion department is on the 23rd floor. It has good lighting and the office is warm and spacious, but there are only 4 people there. Logically speaking, for a company as big as Qingwan department store, it is impossible that the investment promotion department has only 4 people. Just when Yi Qingwan was wondering, the interviewer stood at the door and knocked. Please stop what you are doing for a moment and let me introduce you to Yi Qingwan, the new deputy manager of the investment promotion department. You must cooperate with Deputy Manager Yi in the future. About 4 or 5 seconds after the words were spoken, among the 4 people present, only a girl with curly hair who looked like a doll raised her head. The interviewer locked his eyes on her. Su Xiaoran, come and introduce all the colleagues to Deputy Manager Yi, and show her around. Chapter 9. Before Su Xiaoran could react, the interviewer had already left. In the extremely awkward atmosphere, Yi Qingwan smiled at Su Xiaoran. Hello, my name is Yi Qingwan. Su Xiaoran walked over with a smile, stared at Yi Qingwan's face for a long time, and said infatuatedly, Hello, Deputy Manager Yi, my name is Su Xiaoran. After she finished speaking, she turned her head and pointed at the workstation behind her. The girl with long hair by the window is Zhao Yalan, and the girl with short hair sitting next to her is Shenqi. The 2 of them are in the first group of investment promotion, led by the general manager. The boy sitting opposite me is called Tan Hemming. We are the second investment promotion team. You, Deputy Manager Yi, should be the one leading us from now on. Following the order Su Xiaoran introduced, Yi Qingwan silently memoized the names of his colleagues, and then politely greeted them one by one. For some reason, Zhao Yalan and Shenqi had been in a bad mood since just now, but when Yi Qingwan greeted them individually, they both looked up and smiled symbolically. As for Tan Hemming, he never raised his head from beginning to end, and his attention was all on the computer screen. Su Xiaoran glanced at Yi Qingwan and said, Deputy Manager Yi, let me show you around. Yi Qingwan withdrew his gaze from Tan Hemming and smiled faintly, okay. When they were about to reach the tea room, Su Xiaoran came over and lowered her voice, Deputy Manager Yi, please don't mind. Tan Hemming is quite introverted and doesn't like to talk. He is like this with everyone, but his work efficiency is still very high and his resume is also very impressive. But Zhao Yalan and Shenqi. Su Xiaoran looked into the aisle and made sure no one was coming before continuing. Let me tell you this, in the 2 years since General Manager Qin joined the company, Groups 1 and 2 have not been harmonious. At this point, Su Xiaoran had an expression that could only be understood but not expressed in words. To be honest, before you, 3 assistant managers left. The shortest one stayed for only 1 month, and the longest one did not exceed a probation period of 3 months. But you are the most beautiful one so far. Being praised was a bit unexpected. Yi Qingwan smiled and asked, who is this General Manager Qin? Su Xiaoran understood what Yi Qingwan wanted to ask and explained, it's a female, not much older than us, her name is Qin Meng, and she was the investment director of Born before coming to Qingwan. After confirming the gender of General Manager Qin, Yi Qingwan silently ruled out the possibility of unspoken rules. Su Xiaoran lowered her voice again and reminded, in short, Deputy Manager Yi, please be careful and don't provoke her. Now that things have come to this, Yi Qingwan is almost certain that the 3 people who resigned previously had nothing to do with the department's regularization assessment, and the problem should be with General Manager Qin. As for how he successfully got a job at Qingwan department store, Yi Qingwan had an idea of it. The resume she provided during the interview only contained basic information about her internship experience, and did not include any projects or work achievements she had ever completed. It is obvious that such a simple and clean resume was able to pass the position of deputy manager of the investment department. After simply asking Su Xiaoran some work-related questions, Yi Qingwan went to his office. The office is about 40 square meters in size. It is very clean and fully equipped, and there are no signs of use. Yi Qingwan walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and opened the blinds. The sunlight shone in, covering half of the room. Just as she was standing at the window admiring the scenery outside, there was a knock on the door. Yi Qingwan turned his attention back to the door and said, "Come in." The next second, a plump woman with waist-length wavy hair walked in. The woman had a shrewd smile on her heavily made-up face. The moment she saw Yi Qingwan, she was stunned for a very short moment, but quickly adjusted her expression. "You are Qingwan, right? I am Qin Meng, the general manager of the investment promotion department." While greeting, Qin Meng extended a hand. Yi Qingwan shook hands politely and said with a smile, "Hello, General Manager Qin. It's your first day on the job, and you should be allowed to familiarize yourself with the environment before starting work, but the situation today is a little special." After a few simple pleasantries, Qin Meng got straight to the point. "Someone from the headquarters will come to inspect tomorrow. The managers of each department will hold a meeting today. A brand will come to discuss cooperation in the afternoon. You can go in my place. I will convey the content of the meeting to you later." Although it was Yi Qingwan's first day at work, she was indeed the deputy manager, so she should attend the meeting. However, Qin Meng had already said it so bluntly, and it was difficult for her to refuse her superior's arrangement. "Okay," Yi Qingwan said. Qin Meng seemed to be very satisfied with Yi Qingwan's answer, and her smile became a little gentler. "If you have any questions, feel free to come to me. I'll treat you to a meal some other day. Bye." Bye-bye. After Qin Meng left, Yi Qingwan put away his smile, sat on the chair and took out his cell phone. "I just opened WeChat and saw a message from the WeChat friend with the note husband at the top of my account. Is everything going well? Do you want to have lunch together?" This was the first time Fu Jingyan had communicated with her on WeChat. Yi Qingwan stared at the message for a few seconds and replied, "It's going pretty well, but the company headquarters will have someone to inspect tomorrow, and the general manager will be attending a meeting. I have to receive a brand party for her in the afternoon, so I may need to prepare for lunch." At the same time, in the president's office of Qingwan department store, Fu Jingyan looked at the message sent by Yi Qingwan, and the smile on his brows froze. Someone from headquarters came to inspect. How come he didn't know? Moreover, they actually asked new employees on their first day of work to receive the brand. Who is the general manager of Triumph Investment Promotion? Fu Jingyan raised his eyebrows slightly. Jing Nanqing was lying on the sofa in a nonchalant manner, holding his mobile phone and concentrating on playing games. Hearing a hint of displeasure in Fu Jingyan's voice, he sat up straight and winked at the assistant beside him. The assistant quickly searched for the name and replied, "Mr. Fu, the general manager of the investment department is Qin Meng." Fu Jingyan lowered his eyes and asked directly, "What is the turnover rate of the investment promotion department in the past 6 months?" The assistant was stunned. "In the past 6 months?" Without waiting for the assistant to finish, Jing Nanqing glanced at Fu Jingyan and teased, "You spend every day in the branch office criticizing the current situation for me, leaving the work of the headquarters to the secretary to do remotely. Do you like my employees?" After replying to his wife's WeChat message, Fu Jingyan said coldly, "When I'm not here, does Qingwan rely on you to play games to run the business?" Jing Nanqing put down his phone, looking hopeless. "I'm just worrying about it. I'm almost going bald from worrying about those pieces of land in Europe." Fu Jingyan raised his eyebrows. "I can consider helping you get it for free, but..." Before Fu Jingyan could finish, Jing Nanqing turned around in disbelief. "What? Free of charge?" The expression of shock appeared on his face for the first time because of Fu Jingyan. "But I have a condition." Fu Jingyan sat on the dark brown leather sofa, his long legs casually crossed together, and reached out to light a cigarette. "Come on, say it again and I'll record it as evidence." Jing Nanqing immediately picked up the phone again and moved closer to Fu Jingyan. "Come on, tell me, I, Fu Jingyan, the president of Wanheng International, will help my uncle Jing Nanqing win the remaining land bids in Europe for free." Fu Jingyan took a puff of cigarette slowly, and after exhaling the smoke, he glanced sideways at Jing Nanqing, and the indifference in his eyes was obvious. Jing Nanqing felt a chill down his spine when he was stared at. He had no choice but to put away his phone and stand further away. "TSK, boring. I won't record it anymore. I keep my word. You don't have to worry about the bidding. Come with me to sign the contract when the time comes." Fu Jingyan poked the cigarette butt into the ashtray, stood up and took the suit jacket on the back of the sofa. "I'll keep the conditions for now. You go to the drinking party tonight. I have something else to do, so I won't go with you." Before he could finish his words, a small red notebook slipped out of his suit pocket and fell on the carpet with a plop. Chapter 10. Jing Nanqing's gaze fell on the ground following their click sound. Looking at the small red book with the 3 characters of marriage certificate printed on it, his eyes widened and he pointed at the ground and exclaimed, Yours." This was the second time in just a few minutes that a look of shock appeared on Jing Nanqing's face. "If it's not mine, how can it be yours?" Fu Jingyan bent down and picked up the marriage certificate without changing his expression. Seeing how calm he was, Jing Nanxing couldn't help but take 2 steps closer and raised his voice again. Fu Jingyan. Are you married? You don't even have a woman around you. Tell me who you married. Jing Nanxing wiped his face and began to doubt his life. When did it happen? I'm not the last one to know, am I? Fu Jingyan put his hand on the marriage certificate into his pocket. His tone was calmer than his action, except for the parties involved. You are the first one. That's good. Jing Nanxing's expression relaxed for a few seconds. After realizing the problem, he raised his head and looked at Fu Jingyan. Wait, you got married without telling my sister and my brother-in-law. Are you crazy? Of course I will tell you, but not now. Fu Jingyan's emotions were as calm as a pool of stagnant water, without any ripples. Jing Nanxing. It's no wonder that Jing Nanxing was shocked. The prince of the Fu family in Beijing actually married a mysterious woman without telling his family. If this news gets out, it will probably be on the headlines of major news outlets for half a month. Before I notify them. Fu Jingyan glanced at Jing Nanxing, raised his thick eyebrows, and said with a warning tone, if you dare to leak any news, I will flatten the land you bid for and make it a cemetery. No. I will keep my mouth shut. Jing Nanxing's face changed instantly. He patted his chest and pursed his lips. Fu Jingyan gave him a look that said, you better be able to, and walked out of the office carrying his suit jacket. Jing Nanxing pursed his lips and started gossiping behind him. When will you take me to meet your wife? Is she pretty? How's your figure? To be able to catch your eye, he must be no ordinary person, right? On the other side, after finishing her chat with Fu Jingyan, Qingwan simply tidied up and arranged the office. Then he turned on the computer and carefully looked at the file Qin Meng sent him. In addition to the relevant information about all the brands that Qingwan department store has cooperated with in recent years, there is also an online cooperation plan sent by the brand that we will receive in the afternoon. Qingwan opened the PPT and her pupils trembled when she saw the logo on the homepage. The brand that we are going to discuss cooperation with this afternoon is Jiazadino, the main brand of Song Group. No wonder Song Sikhan appeared near Triumph department store yesterday. Since she has already promised Qin Meng, she must meet with the brand owner of Jiazadino today. Not only did she want to meet, she also wanted to discuss cooperation without any personal grudges. Fortunately, this time Qingwan represented Party A, and it was not Triumph department store that begged Jiazadino to move in, but Jiazadino who came to negotiate for joining Triumph department store. As expected, the brand manager to be received today is either Song Sikhan or Li Linlin. In order to complete this reception meeting without affecting the reputation of his own company and avoiding personal grudges, Qingwan listed several speech plans and was busy for the entire afternoon, even forgetting to eat. By the time we were fully prepared, it was almost time for the appointment. Qingwan quickly put on some makeup, took the documents and left the office. In the reception room at this time, Song Sikhen crossed his legs and leaned lazily on the fabric sofa. Li Linlin was wearing a pair of high heels and pacing back and forth in the reception room, looking very nervous. If we can't come to an agreement, how are you going to explain this to the chairman? Don't worry, the head of the Qingwan department store is an old acquaintance of mine, and he won't deny me this honor. Song Sikhen glanced at Li Linlin, his face showing a bit of disdain. Can you sit down for a while? You're making me dizzy. Li Linlin muttered to herself and sat down next to Song Sikhen reluctantly. At this time, the door of the reception room opened. Hearing the noise, the two men immediately perked up and stood up. Song Sikhen raised his chin confidently and was about to open his mouth to speak, but when he saw that the person coming was Qingwan, his face changed instantly. Qingwan glanced at Song Sikhen and Li Linlin and smiled kindly. Good afternoon, I am Qingwan, Deputy Manager of the Investment Promotion Department of Qingwan Department Store. The General Manager has something urgent to do today, so I will be the one to receive you too. Song Sikhen's facial muscles twitched visibly a few times, and he snorted coldly while biting his back teeth. Sure, I'll be back in Triumph in no time. I was wondering why she refused to marry Liu Jiqiang. It seems she has found someone else to support her. Li Linlin, who was standing by, secretly tugged at Song Sikhen's sleeve and whispered, "Take it easy. We are here to discuss cooperation. If she takes the opportunity to retaliate, we won't be able to explain to the chairman when we go back." Considering that Qingwan is now Party A, although Song Sikhen looks dissatisfied, he can only suppress his emotions. Okay, let's talk. He sat back on the sofa with a grim smile and threw the documents he brought on the table. Let me see what's so special about the new deputy manager. As if she was a little timid, Li Linlin was still polite. She opened the document and handed it back to Yi Qingwan. This is our Jiazi Dino contract. Doesn't she have hands? Song Sikhen turned his head to look at Li Linlin, extremely dissatisfied with her behavior. Li Linlin pulled the corner of her mouth awkwardly, took a deep breath, and put the document back in its place. Yi Qingwan glanced at Li Linlin and sat opposite them calmly. She picked up the document and read it carefully under an extremely unfriendly gaze. After reading the document, Yi Qingwan raised his head and planned to give relatively pertinent suggestions. No matter from which angle you judge it, it is undeniable that Gazeldino is indeed a brand with great development potential. But there are limited vacancies in Kaixin department store. Putting aside other factors, in terms of brand awareness alone, we have a better choice if. Stop talking bullshit. Song Sikhen interrupted. Without waiting to hear the rest of the story, he had already concluded that Yi Qingwan was going to refuse to cooperate, so he immediately slammed the table, stood up, pointed at her and cursed, "You stinking bitch. Are you taking revenge for personal gain?" Li Linlin pretended to stop Song Sikhen and said, "Deputy Manager Yi, you were also an employee of Jiazadino before. There's no need to be so ruthless, right?" Yi Qingwan had anticipated this scene before she came here. Song Sikhen was like this when they discussed cooperation before. Never wait for someone to finish speaking. If she hadn't cleaned up Song Siksen's mess every time, and if Song Hyaming still had some face left, Jiazadino would probably have offended all the shopping malls. Considering that this job was hard-earned and he couldn't be impulsive, Yi Qingwan tried his best to control his emotions. She stared at Li Linlin expressionlessly and said word by word, "I am an employee of Triumph, so I will naturally look at the problem from Triumph's perspective. Whether or not Jiazadino is suitable for settlement has nothing to do with where I used to be an employee." After all, she hasn't given a direct answer yet, it's because Song Sikhen and Li Linlin are too impatient. But as soon as he finished speaking, Song Siksen picked up the kettle on the coffee table and poured it on Yi Qingwan. "Shut up. Who the hell do you think you are? Tell your general manager to come over and talk to me." Fortunately, Yi Qingwan reacted quickly and instinctively dodged backwards. The hot water did not splash onto her face, but it still got on her neck, and her delicate skin instantly turned red. She stood up while enduring the severe burning pain, and subconsciously reached out to take the wet documents on the table, but as soon as her hand reached out, it was grabbed by Song Siksen. Song Sikhen saw that Yi Qingwan had an injury on her hand, so he deliberately pinched the wound wrapped in gauze. "Want to leave? Is this how your Triumph employees receive customers?" Hiss. In just a few seconds, the scabbed wound on Yi Qingwan's palm was torn again, and the bright red color that seeped out almost dyed half of the gauze. Looking at the shocking scene in front of her, Li Linlin took a breath. She was able to distinguish the important from the unimportant, and hurriedly stopped Song Sikhen. "What are you doing?" But Song Sikhen still refused to give in, pointing at Yi Qingwan and shouting, "I'm going to file a complaint against you." Yi Qingwan pulled his hand back tremblingly, his lips turned pale in pain, and a thin layer of sweat instantly covered his forehead. Just as she was about to open her mouth to fight back, an extremely cold voice suddenly came from behind her. "Who do you want to complain about?" When Yi Qingwan heard the voice, his shoulders stiffened and he stood there in a daze. This sound. By the time she figured out whose voice it was, Fu Jingnian's tall figure had already walked out from behind her and stood in front of her like a wall, separating her from danger. Chapter 11. The aura of the man who suddenly appeared in front of him was too strong. Song Sikhen just looked at him and instantly lost his temper. He lowered his voice and said, "Are you her boss? You came just in time. I want to file a complaint against her." Fu Jingnian's cold and wise eyes pierced Song Sikhen. His dark pupils were extremely intimidating. "Jiazi Dino." "That's right." Song Sikhen snorted disdainfully. "I am very dissatisfied with the reception method of your employees. Give me an explanation." Yi Qingwan didn't know why Fu Jingnian appeared here. Even if he was here to protect her, this was her company's business after all. Now that something has gone wrong, as their host, she has to deal with it herself. Most importantly, she didn't want Song Sikhen to vent his anger on Fu Jingnian because of her. He is just an ordinary businessman. What if he is targeted by the Song Group in the future? Yi Qingwan was about to open her mouth to refute, but a lean and capable man in a suit walked in quickly and interrupted her. Her eyes fell on the face of the man in the suit, and her heart skipped a beat. It's over. How did the CEO's assistant get alarmed? If what happened today gets to CEO Jing's ears, won't she have to pack up and leave tomorrow? The assistant stopped beside Fu Jingyan. Fu Gao Qing. Fu Jingyan seemed to interrupt Mr. Fu intentionally. He glanced at Gao Qing and said, "The person in charge of the Jiazi Dino brand maliciously injured our employees. We have called the police. By the way, I would like to inform President Jing that from now on, Wanheng International does not want to see any cooperation with the Song Group." Gao Qing nodded and said, "Yes." Yi Qingwan on the side was a little confused. How did Fu Jingyan know Mr. Jing's assistant? Why would Mr. Jing's assistant listen to his orders? If I heard correctly, what he just said was Wanheng International. Just as she was surprised, Fu Jingyan suddenly turned around, his burning gaze fell on her neck, stayed for half a second, and then moved to the bright red gauze on her hand. This was the first time Yi Qingwan saw anger on Fu Jingyan's face. She subconsciously put her hands behind her back, but saw Fu Jingyan frown slightly. "I'm fine." She was just about to tell him that. But Fu Jingyan didn't wait for her to speak. He put his arm around her shoulders and walked straight out of the reception room. "Hey! Stop right there. Who are you? Why do you interfere with who the Song Group cooperates with?" Song Sikhen pounced forward with a ferocious expression, but was pushed back by Gao Qing with an expressionless face. He calmly glanced at the corner of the ceiling and politely reminded, "Mr. Song, if you are not satisfied with the way our President Fu handled the matter, I can check the surveillance footage in the reception room." Song Sikhen has been arrogant and domineering since he was a child. Even if he is wrong, he will still be arrogant to the end. Vice President? How can a small vice president have such great power? How dare you make decisions for Wanheng International? Tell him to wait for me. After saying this, Song Sikhen pulled Li Linlin and was about to leave. Gao Qing knew that Fu Jingyan intended to conceal his identity, so he did not remind Song Sikhen that the president of Wanheng International was surnamed Fu, and the man just now was not the vice president of Triumph, but the real boss of Triumph. Gao Qing had been working as the chief assistant for a long time and had seen too many ignorant little characters like him. He stepped forward skillfully to stop them and said, "Mr. Song, the police will be here soon. I advise you to cooperate with the investigation." Obviously, Master Song, who didn't even take their vice president seriously, naturally wouldn't take an assistant seriously, so he made a big fuss in the reception room. Even though Gao Qing handled the situation properly, the news still spread into the office building. Fu Jingyan sent Yi Qingwan back to the office and called his private doctor at the same time. Dr. Chen thought that Fu Jingyan was injured, so he rushed over very quickly. However, when he rushed into the building, he found that the injured person was not Fu Jingyan, but a woman. Judging from the degree of Fu Jingyan's worry, Dr. Chen probably guessed the relationship between the two, but he asked nothing and said nothing. He just quietly helped this woman who had a close relationship with the boss to treat the wound. Fortunately, the water temperature was not very high, and the scalded area was not very serious. "It will heal in a few days with some topical medicine, but the wound on my hand has already scabbed over, so I may have to take good care of it for a while." Looking at the bloody wound, Yi Qingwan finally showed a worried expression and asked in a low voice, "Doctor, it won't affect writing and painting, right?" Dr. Chen treated the wound and comforted him, "So you are left-handed. It's okay. If you take good care of yourself, it won't be a problem." When talking about taking good care of it, Dr. Chen glanced at Fu Jingyan unconsciously, as if to remind him. Fu Jingyan gave him a look that said, "I know," and coughed lightly. "Go back after you've bandaged it. I'll do the rest." After receiving the order, Dr. Chen put down the external medicine and left tactfully. Fu Jingyan pulled a chair over and sat in front of Yi Qingwan. "It may hurt a little. I'll try to be gentler." He picked up the external compress, scooped up a small piece with his fingertips and applied it on Yi Qingwan's collarbone. Yi Qingwan stared at Fu Jingyan's eyes thoughtfully. At this moment, the anger in his eyes faded away, and he regained his previous gentleness. The cold ointment was neutralized by the temperature of his fingertips. The moment it was applied on the skin, Yi Qingwan couldn't help biting her lower lip and made a light hum sound. Fu Jingyan's fingertips paused, and his movements became lighter. He knew she had doubts in her heart, and was thinking about how to tell her, when Yi Qingwan suddenly asked, "You wouldn't be the one sent by Wan Heng to inspect, right?" Judging from the tone and tough attitude of Fu Jingyan's words just now, Yi Qingwan originally thought that he was a senior manager of Kaixuan. But when he thought about what he said yesterday about having a meeting nearby, and it just so happened that the headquarters would send someone to inspect Kaixuan tomorrow, Yi Qingwan's first reaction was to link Fu Jingyan and the Wanheng inspection team together. Sent by Wan Heng to inspect. That's true. After all, who says the president can't investigate in secret? Fu Jingyan smiled lightly but said nothing. Chapter 12. Seeing his silent smile, Yi Qingwan took it as his tacit agreement and further speculated, "So you asked me to have lunch with you at noon because you wanted to tell me, right?" Fu Jingyan looked up at her and hummed in a gentle nasal voice. Yi Qingwan pursed her lips, thought for a moment, and then asked, "How long will you be inspecting? Will you stay in this building the whole time?" Some internal issues of Triumph are quite complicated. It may take at least half a year, or at most, not necessarily. This was only what was said to Yi Qingwan. Actually, how long he would stay here depended on how long Yi Qingwan was prepared to work here. Yi Qingwan thought about this answer and nodded with a little worry. Fu Jingyan shifted his gaze to Yi Qingwan's almond-shaped eyes. "Why? Don't you want to work with me?" "Of course not." Yi Qingwan was stunned for a moment and explained in a low voice, "It's just our relationship. It should be considered a taboo in the office, right? I'm worried that if other people know, it will have a bad impact. If their relationship gets out, it will definitely have an invisible impact on their future work. We can, but not make it public for the time being." Fu Jingyan didn't really care whether it was made public or not. He only cared about Yi Qingwan's thoughts. In that case, Yi Qingwan snatched a small medicine bottle from Fu Jingyan's hand and pushed his chair back. "Then you have to treat me as an ordinary colleague in the future, you can't." Before he finished speaking, Fu Jingyan used his legs to support the chair that was moving backwards, and suddenly stood up and moved closer. He supported the table with one hand and placed the other on the back of the chair, leaning over and glancing at Yi Qingwan's slightly glowing eyes. Unexpectedly, Fu Jingyan would suddenly close the distance between them. Yi Qingwan subconsciously dodged backwards, with almost his entire back pressed against the chair. Then, Fu Jingyan continued to move closer, with a faint scent of perfume lingering in his nostrils. "What about after we get home?" The magnetic voice impacted Yi Qingwan's senses. She held her breath nervously. Just as she raised her hand to hold Fu Jingyan's shoulder, the next second, the office door was suddenly pushed open. At this moment, the couple, whose actions were extremely ambiguous, looked over at the same time. Jing Nanxing's tall figure was blocking the door. After seeing the scene in the office, the urgency on his face instantly froze. Obviously, Jiao Qing has already told Jing Nanxing what happened today. Yi Qingwan quickly pushed Fu Jingyan away, stood up in panic, and tried her best to cover up. I'm sorry. Are you okay? I'm so sorry that I tripped you just now." After she finished speaking, she quickly looked at Jing Nanxing and stammered, Mr. Jing. Fu Jingyan understood, stood up, straightened his clothes, and said in a normal tone, "It's okay." Although the two of them acted very realistically, Jing Nanxing saw through the clues at a glance. His subconscious told him that there was something wrong with these two people. But he didn't expose them. Instead, he followed their performance. Jing Nanxing's eyes were serious, and he coughed lightly. "Come with me to the CEO's office, right now." This was the second time he spoke to Fu Jingyan in such a commanding tone, the first time being 20 years ago. At that time, because of the words, "Call me uncle," the 6-year-old young master of the Jing family was pressed to the ground and rubbed by his 8-year-old nephew. After mustering up the courage to speak, Jing Nanxing quickly left, fearing that if he was a second late, he would be stabbed by Fu Jingyan's eyes. Yi Qingwan looked at Fu Jingyan worriedly and said, "I'll go and follow. Wait for me after get off work." Fu Jingyan calmly waved his cell phone at Yi Qingwan, indicating that she should call him, and then left the office. Yi Qingwan was not clear about the relationship between the two. Seeing his CEO so serious, two possibilities instantly emerged in his mind. First, President Jing was very dissatisfied with the way Fu Jingyan handled the situation today, and he called him to the office to give him a lecture. Second, the performance just now was not like that. President Jing discovered that the relationship between the two of them was unusual. He thought that Fu Jingnian's extreme treatment of the Song group was partiality and fraud, so he called him to the office for a lecture. Whatever the reason, the situation is serious. If one person must leave, that person definitely cannot be Fu Jingnian. No, she has to explain everything to Mr. Jing. Thinking of this, Yi Qingwan immediately stood up and went to the president's office. The news that a mysterious leader parachuted in, spoke up for the deputy general manager of the investment promotion department, and banned the Song group, spread quickly in the company building. On their way to the president's office, Fu Jingnian attracted a lot of onlookers. There were those who were gossiping and those who were infatuated with her, but they were all scared away by Fu Jingnian's cold warning eyes. Jing Nanqing was feeling very uneasy in the president's office, but he finally straightened up when Fu Jingnian pushed the door open. Everything has been dealt with. Fu Jingnian took off his suit jacket and sat on the sofa, his face gloomy. Gao Qing stole a glance at his CEO and silently reported the situation. Mr. Fu, according to your request, the Song group has been soft banned. The person who intentionally injured Deputy Manager Yi has been temporarily detained by the police for intentional injury. Qin Meng, the general manager of the investment promotion department. Fu Jingnian didn't say what to do with Qin Meng. Gao Qing was waiting for instructions. Demote him. Fu Jingnian lit a cigarette. Hold a meeting before leaving, get off work and say that someone from headquarters will come to inspect tomorrow. Although Qin Meng had problems, there was no legitimate reason to get rid of her. Firing her now would only make Yi Qingwan gossip. It would be better to demote her and let her be on the same level as Yi Qingwan. As for this conference, it was held by Fu Jingnian in order to temporarily confirm his identity as the leader of the headquarters inspection, not to cover up the lie of Qin Meng. Gao Qing didn't understand, but he didn't need to understand what his boss's boss said, he just had to listen and do it. The cigarette between his fingers was more than half burned before Fu Jingnian took another puff. He exhaled smoke and said slowly, "From today on, I am the leader sent by the headquarters to inspect. Please vacate an office for me on the 23rd floor." "Okay, President Fu." After receiving the order, Gao Qing responded and left the president's office. He didn't want to use his good identity as the president of Wan Hang, but wanted to go undercover as a small clerk. The president couldn't stay in the top floor with an excellent view, so he went to work in a small office on the 23rd floor. Sitting on the sofa, Jing Nanqing, who had been silent for a long time, finally couldn't help but ask, "What is your relationship with that deputy manager Yi?" Fu Jingnian put out his cigarette and didn't answer. As soon as he fell silent, Jing Nanqing's judgment instantly changed. "Fu Jingnian, you have a wife now, but you are having an affair outside. And right under my nose. Have you forgotten the family motto?" Fu Jingnian shrugged. "She is my wife. She is my wife." Jing Nanqing pondered over these 6 big words, and the expression on his face was even more exciting than a circus performance. "The one in the investment promotion department, is she your wife?" "Your wife works at Triumph." "President Fu." He stared at Fu Jingnian in shock. "That's the wife of the president of Wanheng International. You let her be a small department manager in Kaixin." Almost at the same moment when this sentence was shouted, there was a gentle knock on the door of the president's office. There was a faint knock on the door. Just as Jing Nanqing wanted to say, "It's the deputy manager," he choked back. He glanced at the door and said in a deep voice, "Come in." Outside the door, after hearing the permission, Yi Qingwan clenched his palms nervously and paused for 2 seconds before pressing the door handle. She walked into the president's office, not daring to look up at Jing Nanqing's eyes. "Boss Jing. Today's problem is my fault, and it has nothing to do with other colleagues. I didn't receive the brand well, so you can just punish me. I am willing to bear all the consequences." Jing Nanqing was confused by these words. He glanced at the wife of the president of Wanheng International in front of the desk, his mouth twitched, and then he shifted his gaze to someone on the sofa. At this time, Gao Qing pushed the door open and walked in. "Mr. Fu, everything has been arranged." Yi Qingwan was startled when he heard the words. She looked sideways at Fu Jingnian. "Mr. Fu." Chapter 13. When Gao Qing saw Yi Qingwan, his throat suddenly choked up. He didn't expect that Yi Qingwan would appear in the president's office just a few minutes after he left. Although Fu Jingnian had his back to Yi Qingwan at this time, he could still clearly feel how burning the gaze behind him was. His brows were slightly furrowed, and he was thinking quickly about how to respond. Gao Qing observed Fu Jingyan's micro-expressions at this moment and instantly realized that he was in trouble. But if you let something slip, you have to rack your brains to make up for it yourself. Deputy Manager Yi. Gao Qing smiled at Yi Qingwan and said seriously, "You heard wrong. I just said Vice President Fu." The young assistant suddenly demoted the president of Wanheng International by several levels, and Jing Nanqing was shocked. He quickly glanced at Fu Jingyan's reaction, then gave Gao Qing a look that said, "Are you okay?" In order to interrupt the assistant's rebellious speech, Jing Nanqing brought the topic back and asked, "What did you do wrong?" When faced with Jing Nanqing's question, Yi Qingwan thought he was asking her to tell him what she did wrong. "So I thought seriously, I didn't treat the brand well, which caused conflicts and affected the reputation of Triumph." Jing Nanqing slammed the table heavily. "Wrong." Yi Qingwan's body stiffened and he felt like he was about to break out in a cold sweat. However, the next second, someone instantly changed his identity from boss to uncle, and his tone was quite like that of an elder's sermon. "You were wrong for not fighting back. Next time you encounter this kind of filthy guy who deliberately makes trouble, fight back. It's not just Kaishan commercial building that's standing behind you, it's the entire Wanheng International." After being stunned for half a minute, Yi Qingwan gradually came to his senses. Although it was unexpected, after hearing Jing Nanqing's words, she finally felt relieved. At this moment, her focus was no longer on whether it was President Fu or Vice President Fu. But Mr. Jing did not intend to blame Fu Jingyan, nor did he discover the relationship between himself and Fu Jingyan. "That's enough." Yi Qingwan secretly breathed a sigh of relief and turned his gaze to Fu Jingyan again. "I don't know when he stood up, but now he is looking at me with a smile on his face." Yi Qingwan looked at him briefly, then quickly turned to look at Jing Nanqing. She leaned forward slightly and said respectfully, "Thank you, Mr. Jing. In that case, I will go to work first. Sorry for disturbing you." After saying that, he quietly left the president's office. After there were only 3 people left in the office, Jing Nanqing carefully thought about the 3 key words: other colleagues, Vice President Fu, and the inspection leader from the headquarters, and then he figured it out. He looked at Fu Jingyan. "Your wife doesn't know your identity. She doesn't know, so she will feel more comfortable." Fu Jingyan walked to the French window and lit a cigarette. "You just scared my wife." Jing Nanqing. Yi Qingwan heard about Qin Meng's demotion on their way back to the office. The reason is that she knew that Gazeldino did not meet the positioning of Triumph's cooperation, but still made an appointment with the brand and asked a new employee to receive her. What happened in the afternoon not only had a certain impact on Triumph's reputation, but also caused injuries to employees. In fact, there were rumors within the company long before because of the frequent changes of deputy managers in the investment promotion department. It is said that in order to become the department director, Qin Meng deliberately forced the deputy manager away and recommended his own people to take the position. When this incident got out, it confirmed the rumors. Qin Mengxian wanted to take this opportunity to let the newly hired deputy manager leave. "But I didn't expect that I would end up losing the rice instead of the chicken." As soon as Yi Qingwan arrived at the office, 2 messages popped up on WeChat on his phone. Chapter 14. One was from Qin Meng. "Qingwan, I'm really sorry about what happened today. Do you have time tonight? I want to treat you to a meal and apologize to you." The other one is the company group at all members. At 5 p.m., the meeting will be held in the meeting room of each department manager. Please arrive on time. Yi Qingwan stared at the 2 messages and pondered for a few seconds. He already knew what had happened today. Just as she was about to reply to the message to decline, a sudden phone call interrupted her typing. "It's Zhu Qiyun." Yi Qingwan thought to himself that something was wrong and quickly answered the phone. "Hello, Ayun. I forgot you were busy." The person on the other end of the phone sighed and said aggrievedly, "It doesn't matter, I'm not important. You can choose not to reply to my messages or calls. It doesn't matter. I was busy with interviews yesterday and onboarding today. I really..." Yi Qingwan's voice became smaller and smaller. "I didn't think of replying to you." Hearing the word, employment, Zhu Qian instantly revived and said excitedly, "You found a job? So fast. Please treat me to dinner tonight. Let's celebrate." Yi Qingwan was stunned for a moment. "You went back to Jiangyuan?" Zhu Qian: "Yes, I just got off the plane and was about to go home to drop off my luggage. Let's contact each other in the evening. Where do you work? I'll pick you up." Triumph Department Store. Thinking of Fu Jingyan asking her to wait for him after get off work today, Yi Qingwan hesitated, but today. Okay, see you tonight. I won't talk to you anymore. I'm going to get my luggage. Zhu Qiyu interrupted. Hello? After Zhu Qiyan hung up the phone, it was time for a meeting. Yi Qingwan turned off his cell phone, took his pen and notebook and went straight to the meeting room. The conference room was very large, and when Yi Qingwan arrived, almost everyone was there. Gao Qing was standing on the podium. When he saw Yi Qingwan, he nodded slightly and greeted her. Yi Qingwan smiled back and quickly found a seat to sit down. The content of the meeting was very simple. It just informed everyone that someone from headquarters would be coming to inspect, and then pointed out a few points of attention. Finally, amid the murmur of discussion, Gao Qing emphasized the incident in the reception room this afternoon. Although there was no explicit criticism of Qin Meng in his words, every sentence was a reminder to others. If a similar incident happens again next time, Kai Xian will show no mercy. After the meeting, everyone left the meeting room one after another. Qin Meng squeezed out of the crowd and walked straight towards Yi Qingwan. Qingwan? She had a very friendly smile on her face, as if she was very familiar with Yi Qingwan. She seemed to be trying to prove to others that today was just an accident and she did not frame Yi Qingwan. But how familiar can we be when we've only known each other for less than a day? Yi Qingwan saw what she was thinking, but stopped out of politeness. Manager Qin. Yi Qingwan smiled at Qin Meng as if nothing had happened. Why didn't you reply to my message, Qingwan? Qin Meng took Yi Qingwan's arm, and whether intentionally or unintentionally, she took Yi Qingwan's injured hand and said, "Let's have dinner together tonight." Yi Qingwan's hand stiffened, then he naturally moved away and kept some distance from her. I was in a hurry to go to a meeting just now and forgot to reply to the message. I'm really sorry, Manager Qin, I have an appointment tonight. Qin Meng's eyes flashed with embarrassment, and continued, Are you angry with me, Qing Wan, about what happened today? Deputy Manager Qin. Gao Qing suddenly appeared and interrupted Qin Meng. Chapter 15. When Qin Meng saw Gao Qing, he immediately stopped smiling and stammered, Gao, Special Assistant Gao. Gao Qing spoke in a calm tone, with no expression on his face. Please integrate the department's resources in the near future and send them to me before leaving get off work. Considering the workload, from today on, you and Deputy Manager Yi will share the project equally. Okay. Qin Meng's face darkened slightly, revealing a hint of dissatisfaction, but she didn't dare to show it too obviously and smiled stiffly. Seeing her standing there, Gao Qing glared at her. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and go. Okay. Qin Meng paused, his face instantly turned dark as he turned around and left. On my first day at work, not only did you cause me to be demoted, but you also want to share resources with me. Yi Qingwan, just wait for me. After Qin Meng left the meeting room, Yi Qingwan nodded and said, Thank you, Special Assistant Gao. Gao Qing should have said respectfully, This is what I should do, Mrs. Fu, but due to certain factors, he could only smile with a slightly gentle attitude. Thank you, Deputy Manager Yi. You can report any problems you have at work at any time. Yi Qingwan smiled politely in return, turned around and left the meeting room. Yi Qingwan returned to the office, and before he could even sit down in his chair, there was a knock on the door again. Come in. She pressed her eyebrows, her voice sounding a little tired. After the door opened, Su Xiaoran first poked her head in to make sure there was no one else in the room before walking in. Deputy Manager Yi, are you okay? Su Xiaoran glanced at Yi Qingwan's still red neck, took out a box of ointment from her sweatshirt pocket and handed it to her. This is a folk remedy from Tan Hemming's hometown. It is specially used to treat burns without leaving scars. I burned my hand with coffee a few days ago, and he gave it to me. Look, it's all healed now. I heard that you got accidentally burned today. It was he who reminded me to get the ointment for you. As she said that, she stretched out her hand and pointed it to Yi Qingwan. Yi Qingwan looked at the ointment in Su Xiaoran's hand, with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Tan Hemming's concern was beyond her expectations. Seeing that Deputy Manager Yi didn't say anything, Su Xiaoran looked a little flustered, and immediately explained, Deputy Manager Yi, we don't mean to please you deliberately, it's just that this is really useful. She put down the ointment box and said, I won't bother you anymore. I'll go back to work now. Then she turned around and prepared to leave. Yi Qingwan's eyelashes trembled, and he said quickly, Xiao Ran. R. Su Xiaoran paused and turned to look over. Yi Qingwan smiled lightly, thank you, and thank you Tan Hemming. You're welcome. Su Xiaoran blushed and slipped out with a smile on her face. Yi Qingwan was looking at the ointment on the table, and her eyes inadvertently caught a glimpse of another white medicine bottle. In an instant, Fu Jingyan's face flashed through her mind. She suddenly remembered something and took out her cell phone to send a WeChat message to the top post. A friend invited me to dinner tonight. I was halfway through typing when the other party sent me a message. 1-1, there is an emergency meeting at the company, which may take a long time. I will ask the driver to take you home first. Yi Qingwan deleted the previous words and replied, it's okay, a friend just happened to invite me to dinner tonight, I'll just go back by myself after dinner. After a few minutes, the other side replied with, okay. Yi Qingwan sent another emoticon of little rabbit shaking ears, and then turned off the phone screen. Seeing that it was time to get off work, she simply packed up and left the office. Just as Yi Qingwan walked out of the building and was about to call Zhu Qiyu back, he was suddenly covered by a big hand over his eyes. Chapter 16. Guess who I am? A male voice with a deliberately low voice sounded in his ears, and Yi Qingwan was stunned. Zhu Qiyu has a unique scent of perfume. He loves to make perfumes and usually uses perfumes that he makes himself. Yi Qingwan sniffed this familiar and unique scent and instantly relaxed. Of course it's our little princess Yun Tilder. You guessed it so easily. Zhu Qiyu's voice returned to normal and he put his hands in his trouser pockets in disappointment. Yi Qingwan smiled and pushed away the slender hand on her face, turned around, stood on tiptoe, and poked Zhu Qiyu's forehead with her finger. How old are you? Why are you still acting like a child? Yun is 8 years old Tilder. Zhu Qiyu was wearing a very sexy turmeric-colored ripped suit today. Under the black micro-framing, the silver-framed sunglasses almost covered half of his face. A quick glance revealed that he was wearing more accessories than Yi Qingwan. This outfit was too eye-catching in the crowd. Yi Qingwan looked Zhu Qiyu up and down, and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Are you going to dinner with me, or to the fashion show? Zhu Qiyu posed seductively and pushed her sunglasses with her fingers. How do you think of my airport outfit today? Am I handsome? Cool. Very handsome. Yi Qingwan gave a thumbs up, so what are we going to eat later? Zhu Qiyu smiled with satisfaction and handed the handbag she had been carrying for a long time to Yi Qingwan. Let's go, I've already made a reservation. The owner of that restaurant is super handsome. He has a great body. Yi Qingwan took the handbag, pursed her lips, and muttered to herself, what airport outfit? Are you dressing up just to hook up with handsome guys? Zhu Qiyu pretended not to hear, pointed at the bag in Yi Qingwan's hand, and a sly smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Take a quick look, do you like it? I went to Victoria's Secret and picked it out for you. It's red Tilder. It's just a business trip, why do you bring me a gift? Really? Yi Qingwan didn't pay attention to the two English words Zhu Qiyu said. She opened it with anticipation, and just after seeing the red lace inside for less than a second, she immediately covered the bag. Zhu Qiyu. She turned her head and suddenly looked up to meet Zhu Qiyu's gaze, shock and embarrassment written in her eyes. You gave me sexy lingerie. Zhu Qiyu looked as if it was a matter of course. Yes, it's a wedding gift, what else should I give? After saying that, he thought seriously for 2 seconds and said with a smile, or, do you want a small toy? Sure. Yi Qingwan covered Zhu Qiyu's mouth, looked around and whispered, this is on the street. Can you please keep your voice down? Oh, my foundation. My makeup is all smudged. Zhu Qiyu had just struggled out of Yi Qingwan's hands in the previous second, and in the next second her attention was fixed on the hand wrapped in gauze. Oh my god. How did this happen? Yi Xiaowan. Didn't you say it wasn't serious? It's already like a pig's hoof. I accidentally cut myself by breaking a bowl on the day I left home. Yi Qingwan retracted his hand, it's not a serious injury. It will be fine after a few days of rest. Zhu Qiyu frowned. It's been a few days. The gauze is still new. Stop lying to me. Tell me what's going on. Oh, I'll tell you in detail later. Let's go to the restaurant first Tilder, Yi Qingwan casually said. She took the opportunity to stop a taxi and stuffed the yellow thing next to her into it. Chapter 17. The restaurant Zhu Qian booked was not in the city center, which perfectly avoided the evening rush hour, and they arrived at their destination in less than 15 minutes. The restaurant environment is very good, it is a themed Japanese food restaurant. As Zhu Qian said, the boss is very handsome. A handsome Japanese guy with slightly long curly hair, a muscular body and speaks softly. That's the type he likes. However, perhaps because she was married, or perhaps because Fu Jingyan's face was so outstanding, Yi Qingwan was not interested in this. She opened WeChat, glanced at the pinned chat box, and suddenly an idea flashed through her mind. If he's in a meeting, he probably won't have time to eat, right? Should I bring him some midnight snack? When Zhu Qian was ordering food, she took the opportunity to exchange glances with the boss for a while. When she returned to the table, she saw Yi Qingwan in a daze. "You're staring at me." He snapped his fingers in front of Yi Qingwan and smiled smugly. "My vision is pretty good, right?" Yi Qingwan came back to his senses. "No, it's okay, he's quite handsome." "You actually said this level of handsome guy is okay? Shouldn't you drool at the sight of handsome guys when you are married?" Zhu Qian curled her lips and suddenly started gossiping. "I still don't know what your husband looks like. Do you have a photo? Show me. I tell you, men understand men best. I can tell what kind of man he is at a glance." After saying that, he patted his chest confidently and winked at Yi Qingwan. "Photo." Yi Qingwan thought about it and realized that apart from the photo on the marriage certificate, she had no other photos of Fu Jingyan. She didn't even have her marriage certificate with her. "No." Yi Qingwan fumbled with the rim of the cup with her fingertips. "He doesn't seem to like taking pictures very much. There are no photos on the blind date information." "What?" Zhu Qian was shocked. He stared at Yi Qingwan with strange eyes. "You dare to meet without a photo? Yi Xiaowan, even if you are anxious to get married, you don't have to be so bold, right? What if he is a liar? How is he? Tell me in detail." Zhu Qian slammed the table and said. Yi Qingwan glanced at the customers around him and made a hush gesture. "What are you making a fuss about? Not a liar." She picked up the cup and drank a sip of fruit tea, and said seriously, "She is almost half a head taller than you, very beautiful, and very gentle." Zhu Qian narrowed his eyes and asked half doubtfully, "Where does he work? How much is his annual income? How many properties does he own? How many cars? Does he snore when he sleeps? He should be considered my boss now. I don't know his annual income or real estate, but he lives in Shanghai Yinzhu now. I have seen 2 cars. Thinking back to last night, Yi Qingwan said truthfully, "He sleeps very quietly." In this reply, Zhu Qian quickly locked on the 3 key words: boss, Shanghai Yinzhu, and sleeping quietly. "What the hell? Your boss?" He blinked. "He who can afford the house in Shanghai Yinzhu must be a senior leader of Kaishan Commercial Building, right? A secret marriage in the office." Zhu Qian smiled like an auntie and gave Yi Qingwan a meaningful look. "It's quite exciting, Tilda." Yi Qingwan scratched the tip of his nose with his fingers and muttered, "Can you please stop making that expression? I just found out about this today." Zhu Qian's smile did not diminish at all. "Your application was so successful. Could it be that your husband secretly helped you?" Yi Qingwan also had doubts about this question today. But she was not sure whether Fu Jingyan had secretly helped her or Qin Meng had deliberately chosen a newcomer with a mediocre resume to make it easier to deal with her. Without waiting for Yi Qingwan to reply, Zhu Qiu immediately changed the subject to sleep. He pursed his lips and said with a half smile, "How does it feel to sleep with a man? How is he?" Chapter 18. This sentence was very suggestive. Yi Qingwan pretended not to understand and said, "You don't feel anything? There's just one more person next to you." Zhu Qian stared at Yi Qingwan's blushing earlobe and deliberately prolonged the sound of "oh." "You two haven't done it yet, have you?" he asked casually, and picked up a piece of foie gras while it was still hot and stuffed it into his mouth. Yi Qingwan's face turned red from her earlobes to her neck. She drank water strategically, pretending not to hear what he said. Seeing her like this, Zhu Qian couldn't help but continue teasing, "Did I teach you all my experiences? Why are you still shy after getting married?" Yi Qingwan wrinkled his nose to show his dissatisfaction. "Who is shy?" He clearly hinted at it, right? It was him. She took a deep breath and was about to open her mouth to refute, but Zhu Qian said seriously, You are not familiar with each other for a flash marriage, I understand, but you should at least sleep with him once to see if he is okay. What if, that will affect your happiness, don't you think? After saying that, he glanced at the bag next to Qingwan, and couldn't help but raise the corners of his lips. Now that we have the power-up props, why not go back and try it tonight? Zhu Qiyun. Qingwan gave him a warning look. No. Zhu Qiyun shrugged. Well, Master Ben will teach you a few tricks reluctantly. You can learn and apply them when you go back. Qingwan? Zhu Qiyun pulled Qingwan aside to teach him. Although Qingwan blushed and covered his ears, it did not affect his interest in telling the story at all. It was almost 9:30 when the two finished their meal. Thinking that Fu Jingyan might not have eaten yet, Qingwan took a lunchbox with him before leaving. Let me know when you get home. Seeing Qing get into a taxi at night, Zhu Qiyun took a picture of the license plate number, and then went to the bar with the owner of the Japanese restaurant. In the taxi, Qingwan was reading entertainment gossip when suddenly a message popped up on the hot search list. The eldest son of the Song group was imprisoned for intentional injury. He had a dispute with his cellmates and suffered second-degree burns all over his body, and his left hand was disabled. Burns and injury to left hand. Looking at the news that was extremely consistent with his injury today, Qingwan would not have thought much about it if it was someone else, but this person was Song Sixen. Is it a coincidence? Qingwan couldn't help but think of Fu Jingyan's angry look today. She instantly thought of something, but quickly dismissed this guess. Although it was intentional injury, the circumstances were not serious enough to warrant going to jail. Song Sixen was sent to prison, and the Song family couldn't even provide bail, unless he was someone with enormous power. Fu Jingyan is just a small vice president among Wanheng's many senior executives, so it shouldn't be him. Could it be that Mr. Jing did this to save face for Kaishian? Qingwan didn't think any more about what was going on. Song Sixen used to rely on his family's wealth and power to do many evil things, and now he deserves the punishment. She was about to turn to the next piece of news when a phone call came in from a number marked as her husband. Qingwan was stunned and almost didn't react. It turned out that Fu Jingyan had also saved her cell phone number. She quickly answered the phone and cleared her throat. Hello? Jason. Hearing the name, Jingyan, the person on the other end of the phone laughed very lightly, and his voice was low and gentle. Wanwan, are you done eating? I'll pick you up. Qingwan, no need, I'm in a taxi and will be home soon. Fu Jingyan, okay, see you at home. Qingwan nodded and then hung up the phone. Aunt Zhang's mother-in-law was ill, so she took 3 days off to go home and take care of her, so today it was just the two of them at Shanghai Yunju. Although Aunt Zhang usually tries her best to remain invisible and stays in her bedroom when she has nothing to do, today is different. Chapter 19. When Qingwan returned home, he became very nervous. It shouldn't take a few minutes for Fu Jingyan to come back. She sat on the sofa, looking at the underwear bag and whiskey beside her, while Zhu Qian's teaching instructions began to play automatically in her ears for some unknown reason. After taking a shower and changing clothes, dim the lights, and under the ultimate night view of Shanghai Yunju, listen to a song with full ambiguity, such as Moon Sea or Body Language, and pour 2 glasses of wine. When you are tipsy, you should take the initiative, pull his tie with a dazed look, and seduce him to get closer. Don't let him kiss you at this time, slowly increase the distance, then hook your fingers around his belt and pull him back. At this moment, the beeping sound of the combination lock suddenly rang out, interrupting the lingering sound in her ears. Qingwan suddenly came back to his senses and hurriedly used a pillow to press down the 2 things at hand. Then he turned around quickly, and as expected, but unexpectedly met Fu Jingyan's gaze. Seeing Qingwan's cheeks slightly red, Fu Jingyan put his suit jacket aside, walked over and gently touched her forehead with the back of his hand. There is no fever, so the wound should not be inflamed. He finally felt relieved and smiled faintly. Qingwan stared at Fu Jingyan's eyes, opened her mouth at a loss, but didn't know what to say. Just as he was about to say something, his shirt collar was suddenly turned down. It was Fu Jingyan who was checking the burns on her neck. His movements were very gentle, but Qingwan couldn't help but tremble his shoulders. Dr. Chen's ointment is very effective. The redness and swelling on my skin that was in the afternoon has now disappeared. Wanwan, Fu Jingyan was about to speak when Qingwan suddenly stood up. She smiled in panic. Hey, you haven't eaten yet, right? I brought you a lunchbox. Go heat it up. After saying that, he rushed straight to the kitchen with the lunchbox on the table. She wanted to escape from the scene temporarily to calm down, but her movements were too large and the pillow that she had been using to cover something moved halfway. The underwear bag and the wine bottle were exposed, and the two English words Victoria's Secret and Macallan were just caught by Fu Jingyan's peripheral vision. In the kitchen, Yi Qingwan opened the lunch bag, opened the box and put it in the microwave. She stood in front of the microwave, and couldn't help but sneer as she thought about what she had just done. Yi Qingwan, why are you running? Who knew that when I was talking to myself, I heard a voice calling me, Wan, let me come. When Yi Qingwan heard the voice, he was startled and turned around quickly. Coincidentally, the moment she turned around, she bumped into Fu Jingyan's arms. At this moment, the two of them were almost close to each other. Fu Jingyan was very tall, and Yi Qingwan was almost at his shoulder level. When she raised her head, her line of sight was just level with his Adam's apple. Looking at the slightly rolling bulge in front of him, Yi Qingwan couldn't help swallowing. At this moment, Zhu Qiu's voice sounded in my ears again. Pull him by his tie, seduce him. Yi Qingwan's gaze slowly moved down and stopped on the black gucci tie. Her hands, which were supporting the kitchen stove, could not help but tremble, and she was just about to lift them up as if possessed by a ghost. Bite! The sudden sound of the microwave oven instantly woke Yi Qingwan up. She immediately came to her senses, gently pushed Fu Jingyan away, turned around and turned on the microwave. Okay, go sit down, I'll get it for you. Fu Jingyan had already noticed that Yi Qingwan's behavior was abnormal, but he said nothing. He just sat down obediently with a normal expression. Yi Qingwan brought the lunchbox to the dining table. This looks good, try it. After saying that, he immediately changed the subject and prepared to leave. Well, take your time eating, I'll go wash up first. Before she could turn around, Fu Jingyan suddenly called her. Wan. Chapter 20. Yi Qingwan paused and nervously said, R. Fu Jingyan looked at the steaming lunchbox in front of him, picked up his chopsticks and gave a faint smile. To prevent the wound from getting infected, put the wine away. If you want to drink, I'll drink with you after your wound heals. Yi Qingwan's scalp tingled, ? What's the meaning? I clearly hid the wine and underwear, could it be that he saw them? Thinking of this, the embarrassment on Yi Qingwan's face almost overflowed, but she pretended to be calm and said calmly, well, okay. After saying that, he quickly left the restaurant. However, at this moment, Fu Jingyan, who was eating his lunchbox, gradually raised the corners of his mouth into a very shallow arc, and the expression on his face was no longer restrained. When returning to the room, Yi Qingwan went around the living room. Looking at the wine bottles and packaging bags exposed on the sofa, she had the urge to jump off the top floor. So embarrassing. As long as you don't have an eye disease, you should be able to see it so clearly, right? Yi Qingwan, with tears in her eyes, hugged the two extremely shameful props and rushed into the bedroom. The destruction was so deliberate that she walked around the room twice before finally finding a suitable place to hide the two items. After finishing the task, she ran to the bathroom and took a shower, hoping to wash away the yellow waste that Zhu Qiu had forced into her brain. When I finished washing and returned to the bedroom, Fu Jingyan was about to go to the study. Yi Qingwan stood at the door, pausing as he wiped his hair with a towel. I have some work to do temporarily, so I might be busy until late at night. You should go to bed first. Fu Jingyan smiled at her and reminded her, blow dry your hair before going to bed. Yi Qingwan, okay. Looking at Fu Jingyan's back as he left, she couldn't help but think wildly. Could it be that he was deliberately avoiding me because he saw that sexy lingerie? It's over, how can I explain this? Zhu Qiu. Look at your bad idea. Yi Qingwan had a sad face and immediately hid under the quilt after drying her hair. She didn't remember what time she fell asleep, but she knew that she didn't sleep well that night and seemed to have had nightmares. In the dream, he did as Zhu Qiu said, but was ruthlessly pushed away by Fu Jingyan, who then slammed the door and left with a look of disdain and contempt. After struggling on the bed, Yi Qingwan sat up. It was still dark, so she put on her slippers and quietly ran to the study, opened the door a crack, and took a peek inside. Perhaps he really worked very late. Fu Jingyan lay on the table in the study, with his glasses casually placed next to the computer, breathing deeply, looking exhausted. Yi Qingwan wanted to go in and help him put on some clothes, but was worried about waking him up, so she simply turned off the air conditioner in the study and closed the door carefully. I don't know if it was because of the nightmare that scared her, but now she is extremely awake. Aunt Zhang was not at home, so after washing up, Yi Qingwan went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. There are all the ingredients in the house, they should have been prepared before Aunt Zhang left. Yi Qingwan opened the refrigerator and looked around. She took out 2 bagels and put them in the oven, then picked an orange to squeeze juice from. Considering that Fu Jingnian had worked all night and had another day to work, she specially made a cup of black coffee. While the bagels were baking, Yi Qingwan fried bacon and fried eggs. In the portion prepared for Fu Jingnian, Yi Qingwan put double the ingredients. Soon, 2 delicious breakfasts were ready. After putting the dishes in the dining room, it was time to get up. Before Yi Qingwan could go to the study, Fu Jingnian seemed to have heard some noise in the kitchen and came over after waking up. He was not wearing glasses, his tie was loose, and the first button of his shirt was undone. Chapter 21. Perhaps because he had stayed up all night, his eyes were a little red. When he came out and saw Yi Qingwan wearing an apron, his eyes were slightly red. Because of the dream, when Yi Qingwan saw Fu Jingnian coming out, her heart skipped a beat before she smiled slowly. "You're awake, come and have breakfast, it's just out of the pot tilder." The early morning sunlight broke through the clouds and shone into the floor-to-ceiling windows of the restaurant, just falling on Yi Qingwan's body, as if a layer of golden light had been coated on her. Fu Jingnian stared at her in a daze, and only walked over after a few seconds. "Yi Qingwan, my cooking skills may not be as good as Aunt Zhang's, but it should be pretty good. Would you like to try it?" Fu Jingnian looked at the steaming bagels and coffee on the table, pulled out a stool and slowly sat down. After taking a bite, he praised, "Millimeter, it's delicious. I'm not exaggerating, it's really delicious and the cooking time is just right. The most important thing is that this is made by my wife and it tastes like happiness." Yi Qingwan curved her almond-shaped eyes, took off her apron and sat next to him. In order to prevent her mind from being disturbed by the images in the dream, she tried her best to find a topic. "What do you want to eat tonight? I'll cook for you and let you taste my real cooking skills tilder." Fu Jingnian paused, his voice a little hoarse because he had just woken up. "I have a dinner party tonight." Yi Qingwan looked a little disappointed, raised his eyes and said, "Okay. They are all male friends." Fu Jingnian took a sip of coffee and explained as a matter of course. Yi Qingwan didn't react to this explanation. He said slowly, "Then come back early." Fu Jingnian didn't look up. "Okay." After breakfast, the two of them packed up and drove to the company. In order to prevent the relationship from being exposed, Yi Qingwan got off the car at the old place and walked to the building. Fu Jingnian wanted to call her, because his car was usually driven into the company's private garage on the 2nd floor below ground, while the cars of other company employees and mall customers were on the 1st floor below ground. In addition, he took the president's special elevator, so he basically would not meet other people. But there's no guarantee that he'll meet Jing Nanxing. It would be bad if he, with his big mouth, saw the two of them at the same time and let something slip. Moreover, he is now the vice president, and it would be easy to arouse suspicion if he took the president's special elevator, so he simply did not stop Yi Qingwan from getting off the car. Just as the driver was about to drive to the garage, Fu Jingnian looked at Yi Qingwan's gradually receding back and slowly said, "Pull over." Yi Qingwan entered the company as usual. It was only her second day at work, but many people she didn't know greeted her. She was a little unaccustomed to the enthusiasm. "Good morning, Deputy Manager Yi Tilder." "Good morning, Deputy Manager Yi." "Deputy Manager Yi, you're here so early. Have you had breakfast?" Although he felt puzzled, Yi Qingwan still responded to everyone politely. "Good morning, I've eaten, tilder." But she didn't know that yesterday's incident, coupled with the trending searches, had been spread as a rumor all night. Now it has changed from "mysterious leader parachuted in, stood up for the Deputy General Manager of Investment Promotion, and banned the Song Group," to "the new Deputy General Manager of Investment Promotion is actually the favorite of President Kai Xian. President Jing punishes the young master of the Song family for love and evil." After hearing the greetings, Yi Qingwan finally entered the elevator. Just as she was expecting the elevator door to close quickly so that she could go upstairs and get away from here. The elevator door that was about to close was suddenly blocked by a large bony hand and opened again. When she looked up again, she saw Fu Jingnian walking in calmly. He pretended to be unfamiliar with her and looked at her for half a second. Yi Qingwan. Chapter 22. After the elevator door closed again, whispers of discussion emerged from behind the two people. Isn't this Vice President Fu who came to inspect from headquarters? So tall and handsome tilde. His so handsome tilde help tilde I feel like is not on the same level as us. Hey, is that the guy next to him the new deputy manager of the investment department? It seems so. No wonder Mr. Jing likes it. It is really beautiful. Why do I feel that Vice President Fu and her a better match? They look like a perfect couple tilde. No, I think Mr. Jing is a better match. Yi Qingwan could hear these words, and naturally they also reached Fu Jingyan's ears. What the hell is going on? How could she be linked to Mr. Jing? So everyone was so enthusiastic just now because they mistakenly thought that she had some relationship with Mr. Jing. Damn it, Fu Jingyan wouldn't misunderstand, right? Yi Qingwan tried to stay calm and glanced at her real husband beside her. At this moment, Fu Jingyan suddenly reached for the floor button. Yi Qingwan followed his hand with her eyes and saw him pause at the 23rd floor. Only then did she realize that she did not press the elevator button when she came in. Is he going to help me press it? There was almost no one in the elevator who didn't know that the 23rd floor was the investment promotion department. If Fu Jingyan helped her press the elevator button in front of so many people, there might be a new version of the rumor in the afternoon. The top executives of the airborne headquarters and the triumphant president actually underestimated the enemy. Or the new deputy manager of the investment department is playing both sides. It's scary to think about it. Just when Yi Qingwan was worried and was about to reach out and press the elevator button before him, Fu Jingyan paused for half a second and pressed the button on the top floor. Question mark. Yi Qingwan pressed the button for the floor he was supposed to go to with a little hesitation, and his eyes cast towards Fu Jingyan again. I don't know if it's an illusion, but he is exuding a chill all over his body now, and I shudder when I get close to him. The top floor is the president's office. He must be jealous and is going to find President Jing to argue. This was Yi Qingwan's first reaction. Just as I was guessing, the elevator stopped on the 23rd floor. Seeing that Yi Qingwan, who was standing at the front, was absent-minded and looked not very well, a faint reminder came from the side. Deputy Manager Yi, aren't you going to get off the elevator? Fu Jingyan asked. Yi Qingwan came back to his senses and said slowly, next. After walking out of the elevator, Yi Qingwan couldn't help but guess as he walked towards the office. Is Fu Jingyan jealous? Did he sound angry just now? Can you send a WeChat message to explain? Just as she was wondering what to do, she looked up and caught a glimpse of a sneaky figure. The figure was standing at the door of her office, standing on tiptoe and looking towards the room opposite her. There are 6 people in the investment promotion office, including her and Qin Meng. She and Qin Meng are the only ones working separately. Moreover, Qin Meng's office is at the end of the corridor, and there is no one in the room opposite her. Because of the backlight, Yi Qingwan couldn't see the person's face clearly, but he could tell that it was a girl. What are you doing? Yi Qingwan pressed the switch of the corridor light on the wall. In an instant, the corridor was illuminated by lights, and Su Xiaoran's shoulders trembled and she immediately looked over. Yi, Deputy Manager Yi. The wrinkles on Yi Qingwan's brows gradually unwound. Xiaoran? What are you looking at? Su Xiaoran swallowed nervously and walked towards Yi Qingwan holding the documents. Nothing, just. She glanced back at the office again, then turned back. I heard that Vice President Fu, who came to inspect, chose our office on the 23rd floor, which is the office opposite you. Everyone says that Vice President Fu is tall and handsome, just like he came out of a comic book. Su Xiaoran unconsciously lowered her voice. I just wanted to come and see if he is as handsome as everyone says. What? Yi Qingwan thought he had heard wrongly. Chapter 23. Su Xiaoran stole a glance at Yi Qingwan, and immediately waved her hand to explain. No. I'm not here to see the handsome guy, I'm here to deliver the documents. She hurriedly handed the document in her arms to Yi Qingwan. This is the project report assigned by Deputy Manager Qin. Before Su Xiaoran finished speaking, Yi Qingwan's eyelashes trembled slightly, and she asked in surprise, You said, Vice President Fu's office is here. Su Xiaoran swallowed the rest of her words and nodded. Yes, when I came this morning, I saw the cleaning lady cleaning, and the office supplies were all arranged. Yi Qingwan. There were dozens of floors in the building, but Fu Jingyan chose the 23rd floor, which was opposite her office. Yi Qingwan's inner shock was revealed on her face. Su Xiaoran noticed that something was wrong with her and asked, "Deputy Manager Yi, what's wrong with you?" "Nothing, just a secret marriage in the office, which is even more exciting." Yi Qingwan tried hard to control his expression and forced a smile. "Since Vice President Fu's office is on the 23rd floor, you should be careful in your work and be cautious about slacking off." Su Xiaoran, who was just immersed in the sight of Vice President Fu's handsome face, was reminded by Yi Qingwan's words and suddenly realized how terrible this matter was. The boss from the headquarters will keep an eye on every move of the investment promotion department, and we will never be able to slack off happily again. 3 leaders, for members. Not to mention keeping an eye on one person at a time. Even if you just take a quick glance when passing by, you can see clearly who is doing what, whether they are working or idle. Su Xiaoran looked dejected, and instantly lost interest in the appearance of Vice President Fu. "Deputy Manager Yi, please take a look at the project differentiation," she said bitterly. Yi Qingwan took the document and said, "Come in with me first." She had just arrived and was not very familiar with the current projects and resources of the investment promotion department, so Su Xiaoran still needed to report to her. After entering the office and closing the door tightly, Su Xiaoran said dissatisfiedly, "Deputy Manager Yi, that Qin Meng is obviously bullying. The investment promotion department has had more than 20 projects in the past year, big and small. She kept all the easy ones for herself, leaving us in Group 2 with only the hard ones to chew. Especially the GNTR. They required us to get it, but they only accepted the best location on the first floor of the mall. One team has been working on it for almost half a year, but still haven't signed it. Also on the sea, their project manager asked for a 30% rent reduction, otherwise they would not renew the contract." Yi Qingwan was flipping through the project breakdown report, listening to Su Xiaoran talking in a disjointed manner. She is familiar with these brands, and they are indeed tough nuts to crack. Many high-end brands have a great reputation and good word of mouth, and their sales are indeed very high, so they ask for a very high price. Very normal. However, although the projects currently in hand for Group 2 are difficult, if they can complete any one of them, it will be a great achievement. Qin Meng wanted her to retreat when she saw difficulty, so he let her see what it meant to survive a desperate situation. Yi Qingwan comforted Su Xiaoran with a few words, then asked her some questions related to the project and let her go to work. Considering the current situation, she decided to start with GNTR. Perhaps because she didn't sleep well yesterday, Yi Qingwan suddenly felt sleepy. After sending an email to the brand owner of GNTR, she went to the tea room. While waiting for coffee, Zhu Qian sent me a WeChat message. "How was it, Yi Xiaowan? Did you have a great time last night? Tell me. Is my teaching useful?" Then, another smirking emoticon was sent. "I finally put yesterday's incident behind me, but now I remember it again." Yi Qingwan's ears turned red, and she angrily replied, "Shut up." Then he added an emoticon of a man holding a knife. "I just replied to the message and the coffee is ready." Yi Qingwan prepared to go back to the office and slowly talk to Zhu Qiu about this matter. But just as she picked up her coffee and was about to turn around, Fu Jingyan appeared behind her without warning. At this moment, he had an ambiguous smile on his face, his eyes swaying slightly, just falling on the mobile phone screen. Chapter 24. Yi Qingwan stared at the man in front of her in a daze and subconsciously took a step back. She didn't move much, but the coffee cup in her hand still tilted towards herself. Fortunately, Fu Jingyan held her wrist in time, so the coffee did not spill on her. It's just that the closet door above Yi Qingwan's head was not closed. With her height of 168 centimeters and her 10 centimeters high heels, she would bump into it if she raised her head. Just a second before she bumped into him, Fu Jingyan seemed to have predicted it and stretched out his hand to block the corner of the closet door. The movement was so natural that Yi Qingwan didn't even react the moment she bumped into his hand. In the spacious tea room, the two of them were at a very ambiguous distance from each other, and their movements and postures were very much like a wall dawn. "Deputy Manager Yi." Fu Jingyan's voice was very light. His left hand was supporting the closet intentionally or unintentionally, and his right hand was still lightly holding Yi Qingwan's wrist without letting go. "Who are you chatting with during working hours?" he asked with his eyes downcast. Yi Qingwan looked at him for 2 seconds, lowered his head and was stunned. I am. Before she could finish her words, she suddenly realized that her phone screen was on. And it still stuck on the chat interface with Zhu Qian. In an instant, her pupils shrank suddenly. "It's over. You can't see it." Just as I was thinking about it in my mind, a reminder sound suddenly rang out, and another message came from the other side. Why are you asking me to shut up? Didn't it work? Yi Xiaowan. Is your husband not capable? After this message, the phone beeped for the second time. That's right. It must be your husband's fault. There is absolutely no problem with this master's strategy. Yi Qingwan's face turned red instantly, and he wanted to find a hole in the ground to crawl into because of embarrassment. She put away her phone in panic and looked at Fu Jingyan guiltily. Seeing his brows slightly frowned, Yi Qingwan realized that he must have seen the chat history, so he quickly found an excuse to escape the scene. Would you like some coffee, Vice President Fu? As soon as she asked the question, without waiting for anyone to respond, she stuffed the coffee into Fu Jingyan's hand and said, "Here's the cup for you. I'll make another one." Then he bent down flexibly and slipped under his left arm. Fu Jingyan raised his eyebrows slightly, put his hands in his pockets, took a sip of the coffee his wife made, with a smile on his lips. There was a hint of amusement in his eyes, and his gaze shifted, finally landing on the bag of granules that Yi Qingwan had just torn open. After the strong and bitter taste spread through the taste buds, he reminded her, "Wanwan, you used cold medicine." Yi Qingwan's mind was blank and he had no idea what he was busy doing in front of the coffee machine. "I just wanted to make something quick and leave here quickly." She looked down at the brown transparent liquid in the quilt and the corners of her mouth twitched. "The temperature may drop in the next 2 days. Yes. I'll take precautions in advance." After talking nonsense, Yi Qingwan quickly rushed out of the tea room with the cold medicine. Fu Jingyan glanced at Yi Qingwan's departing back and a low laugh escaped from the depths of his throat. Just as I was about to leave, a pungent smell of perfume hit me in the face, and a curly-haired woman in a low-cut, tight skirt came into my sight. When Fu Jingyan noticed other opposite sex appearing in his perception range, the smile on his face faded in an instant, replaced by a cold look that kept people at a distance. What a coincidence, is Vice President Fu coming for coffee too? Qin Meng walked in from the other side of the tea room with a smile on her face, and looked at Fu Jingyan with a hint of teasing in her eyes. Chapter 25. She thought that with her outstanding figure and appearance, she would definitely attract the attention of her new boss. After all, among all Kaishuan's male colleagues, few would ignore her existence. So she boldly came over, and pretended to touch her hair casually, and said in a soft and charming voice, "I like to drink latte, too, Fu." I just didn't expect that I hadn't finished saying the second half of the sentence. The man next to her actually walked away indifferently with his coffee, without even looking at her. After being ignored, Qin Meng's awkward smile almost froze at the corners of her mouth. She clenched her fist and hammered the tea table sinisterly. Yi Qingwan hid in the office with the cup of cold medicine in her hand, until she heard the sound of a door closing in the room opposite. Her heart, which had been hanging in the air, shook again. It's not that she was worried that Fu Jingyan would see her chatting with Zhu Qiyu. After all, there was no relationship between him and Zhu Qiyu. They were just good sisters. As for discussing some things between husband and wife, there is nothing to be embarrassed about even if he sees it. I just don't know if Fu Jingyan will misunderstand Zhu Qiyu's words. Is your husband not capable enough? I think if I was angry because of a misunderstanding, then my reaction just now should have been annoyance. What is he laughing at? She was still guessing, and under the bombardment of messages from Zhu Qiyu, she began to explain what happened last night. However, after Zhu Qiyu's analysis, he finally concluded. It turned out that Yi Qingwan was too cowardly. Moreover, she had some wounds on her hands and body. Perhaps Fu Jingyan was worried about accidentally touching her wounds, so he endured and restrained himself. It's not that he can't do it, right? After discussing for nearly half an hour, the topic had just ended when a message suddenly appeared in the mailbox. This is GNTR's response letter. As we all know, GNTR is a very popular top luxury brand. Since it entered the domestic market at the beginning of this year, many high-end shopping malls across the country have flocked to it for investment. However, not many of them responded to the invitation, because for GNTR, not just any shopping mall can be opened. As a top luxury brand, GNTR will only choose the most high-end shopping malls. Whether it is word-of-mouth reputation or background value, it can only be the best. This is also the main reason why they would rather stay with Triumph for more than half a year than move into other shopping malls. But, GNTR's first store in Gangwon City must be acquired, but Triumph cannot give it the best location in the mall. Qin Meng had not been able to get the deal done before because the top leaders were too stubborn. But triumph has always been like this, it requires both the advantage of the active party and the offensive of the passive party. Yi Qingwan looked at the negotiation invitation for next Monday and felt the pressure surge up instantly. This was her first project in Kaixin, and she had to talk it over no matter what difficulties there were. In order to prepare for this negotiation, Group 2 held a half-day meeting this afternoon. Because right now, not only Kaixin department store is striving for GNTR's first entry, but Jialan is also striving for it. On the same track, Jialan and Kaixin are on par with each other, and they are willing to offer the best shop location in the center of the first floor. The only advantage that Triumph has at the moment is that it has Wanheng behind it. But Su Xiaoran heard a rumor that GNTR's brand had been shaken due to time constraints on the project. If the Triumph is really not negotiable, then it is very likely that they will have to settle for the next best option. By the time the negotiation was over, it was time to get off work. As the new leader, Yi Qingwan should have treated his two department members to a meal, but unfortunately, today was Su Xiaoran's grandmother's birthday. As for Tan Hemming, he never liked to attend such meaningless dinners. But if he had to go, he would not refuse. Chapter 26. So the three of them decided to have a dinner together next week after the discussion. If it works out, it will be a celebration dinner. If it doesn't work out, it will be a celebration dinner. There is nothing that Yi Qingwan cannot think of. She remembered that Fu Jingmian said in the morning that there was a dinner party today, so she planned to go and say hello when no one was around before leaving. But I was afraid of being seen by other colleagues, so I just sent a WeChat message. Aunt Zhang will not be back until the day after tomorrow, and if she does she will be alone today. Not wanting to waste her Friday after get-off work time, Yi Qingwan plans to call Zhu Qiyu out for dinner. However, she didn't expect that when she was about to send a message to Zhu Qiyu, she looked up and saw him sitting next to the flower bed downstairs. I thought they were good sisters who had a tacit understanding and thought of looking for each other at the same time. But logically speaking, the Song Group building is about half an hour's drive from the Triumph department store. Add to that WANGAO phone, how did he manage to appear here at this time? Yi Qingwan waved at him, her voice tinged with surprise. Ayun. Today she was wearing a light pink skirt. The hem was not long, just covering her knees. Her straight and slender legs were stepped on by a pair of high heels of the same color. Her long black hair was scattered, and the breeze after sunset blew it into a gentle arc. Zhu Qiyu looked away from the voice and paused for a second. Then he lowered his head in shock and looked at his misty blue shirt and white straight jeans. I'm dying. You and I look like we're wearing matching outfits. He stood up and crossed his arms over his chest. What if I meet a handsome guy later? Wouldn't you be blocking my romantic opportunities? Hearing this disgusted complaint, Yi Qingwan forced himself to suppress the smile on his face. Do you want me to put the words married woman on your face? Zhu Qiyu snorted softly, and reluctantly took the bag from Yi Qingwan's shoulder and put it on herself. Okay, this way the features are more obvious. Yi Qingwan's mouth twitched. She knew he wouldn't be so kind as to help her carry her bag. I was fired. Listening to Zhu Qiyu's indifferent voice, it seemed that being fired was as common as having a meal. Yi Qingwan couldn't believe it. What did you say? No wonder he showed up so early. Because of Song Sikhen, the Song Group suffered a great loss, but it has not yet reached the point of bankruptcy. Zhu Qiyu is a brand designer and a very important person for Jiazadino. Why would they fire him? For some reason, a terrible idea popped into Yi Qingwan's mind, that is, Song Hyaming believed that she was the one who instigated Song Sichen's accident, and that he fired Zhu Qiyu because she had a good relationship with him. But why didn't Song Hyaming look for her? Zhu Qiyu responded calmly, it's better to quit. I just want to change jobs or open my own studio. If I quit, I can just get N+1 and get more money. There was a faint ripple in Yi Qingwan's eyes. I'm sorry, if it weren't for me. I don't want to hear that. Yi Xiaowan, are you sick? Zhu Qiyu jumped aside, as if she had heard something incredible and wanted to wash her ears immediately. If you say those 3 words again, I will break up with you. What does this have to do with you? Now the Song Group has been soft banned by the business leader. If he doesn't lay off a group of employees, he will be unable to pay their salaries. Did you know that your brother, no, that Song Sikhen, went in? Zhu Qiyu changed the subject. Not only do I know, I am also a victim. Yi Qingwan wanted to tease her like this. but then she thought about it, and since she didn't explain it during dinner yesterday, it seemed like Ju Qiu didn't know the reason yet. It's better not to know, so that I don't have to hear Ju Qiu greeting the Song family's ancestors for the next half month. Yi Qingwan shrugged, pretending to be surprised. Really? I've been busy with work these days. Chapter 27. Ju Qian sneered, it's even on a hot search. I heard that you offended a certain big boss, but he deserves it. He has bullied you for so many years, I have disliked him for a long time. Okay, let's not talk about him for now. Yi Qingwan turned his head to look at Ju Qian. What are your plans for the future? Change jobs or open a studio? If you want to change jobs, maybe you can try Triumph's advertising design department. Triumph's advertising design is very good. I asked, but there are no internal referrals, but... She hesitated and said, it's a waste of talent for a fashion designer to design advertisements. But if you want to open a studio... Yi Qingwan took out a bank card from his bag and handed it over. Use this 100,000 yuan to rent a studio first. Ju Qian, who had just raised her chin proudly, couldn't hold back her emotions anymore after seeing the bank card and the sincere look in her best friend's eyes. His eyes turned red, his nose felt sore, and he almost couldn't help but hug Yi Qingwan and burst into tears. Ju Qian's family environment was a mess. His father died very early and his mother had uremia. In order to treat his mother's illness, he borrowed a lot of money from relatives. Although his previous job was high-paying, most of the money was spent on the hospital to keep his mother alive or to pay off debts. To be honest, I don't have much money at all. Yi Qingwan gave him the money without hesitation, not only because he felt sorry for his friend, but also because he had always extended a helping hand to him every time he was at a low point in his life. Yi Xiaowan. Ju Qiu took the bank card and did not put it away, but stuffed it back into Yi Qingwan's bag. You just got married and you don't even know your partner well enough. If he treats you badly, you must have money in your hand so that you can escape at any time. Don't worry about me. If you want, we can open a studio together. If you really want to help me, why don't you draw a few pictures for me after I open my business? Yi Qingwan stared at him for 2 seconds, then smiled. Okay, when the flesh on my palm grows back, I'll draw as many pictures as you want. Can I wait until I become rich and then give you the cost of the design? Okay. While chatting and laughing, the two of them first took a walk around the Triumph department store. Yi Qingwan specifically observed the locations of the shops that Triumph could offer, as well as the locations that were rejected by GNTR. Then after a simple meal, she took Ju Qian to Jialan for an on-site inspection. At the same time, in the private banquet hall on the top floor of Jialan International. The huge banquet hall is decorated in retro French style, and the deep and sexy tunes of cello fill the air under the dim lights. Fu Jingyan sat on the sofa, his black suit almost hiding him. His legs were casually crossed, one hand was lightly clenched and casually placed on his legs, and the other hand was resting on the chair, with a cigarette that was about to burn out pinched between 2 fingers. Looking through the darkness, there were a few stubbed cigarette butts at his feet. Jing Nanqing fiddled with the lighter in his hand, his tone a little impatient. Is Shen Jian coming? Cheng Yuheng, who was smoking a cigarette nearby, raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, why are you in such a hurry? Your house has a curfew. Speaking of access control, Jing Nanqing stole a glance at a married person. Is this a door access issue? He hummed, the organizer is late, and the invited guests are waiting foolishly. Cheng Yuheng smoked a cigarette and glanced at Fu Jingyan. You two brothers haven't seen each other for almost 3 years, right? Fu Jingyan put out the cigarette between his fingers and said nothing. Cheng Yuheng lowered his eyelids. That incident 3 years ago. Chapter 28. Because of the news that shocked Beijing 3 years ago, rumors are still spreading in the business community that the Fu and Shen families have broken up and that the former good brothers have become enemies. In fact, everyone has their own version of the truth, but it is true that Fu Jingyan and Shen Jian have not been in contact for 3 years. As one of the good friends who was once caught in a dilemma, Cheng Yuheng wanted to take advantage of today's reunion to let the two open up and have a good talk. But before the old story could be brought up, the door of the banquet hall suddenly opened. Then, a tall and slender man with an elegant temperament and a bit of ruffian style walked in, looking exhausted. She has a high nose bridge under her characteristic almond-shaped eyes and 2 deep dimples on her lips when she smiles. It was Shen Jian who had been late for a long time. Fu Jingyan did not raise his eyes, only Jing Nanqing and Cheng Yuheng looked over at the same time. You came so late and kept us waiting. Look at Qingyan, he has already smoked almost half a pack of cigarettes. Cheng Yuheng joked intentionally. Hearing this, Shen Jian glanced at Fu Jingyan, who was chasing a cigarette but on the sofa, and his eyes curved. Sorry for the long wait. I had a multinational meeting today and I just finished it. You're 10 minutes late, so you have to drink 1 cup as a penalty. Jing Nanqing looked at his watch and said seriously, half an hour, 3 cups. After that, he waved to Jiao Qing in the distance, joking with a little deliberateness, come over and pour the wine, fill it up for Mr. Shen. Shen Jian walked over with his slender legs, sat down and said with a smile, okay, I'll drink 3 cups as punishment. Just as he was about to pick up the filled glass, a low, hoarse voice interrupted him. There's no rush to drink. Fu Jingyan raised his eyelids and glanced at Shen Jixing sinisterly, just tell me your intentions. What do you want from me? In the business world, he has always been a person who is unwilling to waste time on useless things. We haven't seen each other for 3 years and have had no contact during that time. The sudden invitation must be more than just a simple dinner and drinks. Listening to Fu Jingyan's words, Shen Jian paused, thought for half a second, and then picked up the wine glass. I haven't seen you for a few years. I must have missed you. Cheng Yuhan tried to break the awkward atmosphere with a joking tone, how about you 2 clink glasses? Talk slowly if you have anything to say. After saying that, he immediately signaled to Jing Nanqing with his eyes and asked his assistant to pour a glass for Fu Jingyan as well. Jing Nanqing knew Fu Jingyan's character best. If he was poured wine at this critical moment, he would not even touch the glass, let alone clink glasses with Shen Jian. Shen Jian raised his thick eyebrows and chuckled, you still have to drink alcohol as a punishment. I dare not disobey my uncle. After that, he raised the wine glass and glanced at Jing Nanqing, then drank a full glass of red wine with a raised corner of his mouth. Jing Nanqing frowned. After finishing a glass of wine, Shen Jian took the bottle of red wine from Jiao Qing's hand, poured himself a second glass, and slowly responded to Fu Jingyan's words just now. I was busy with business overseas in the past few years and never had the time to sit down with you for a drink. I heard from Yuheng that you were in Jiangyuan. It just so happened that Shanghai acquired Jialan during this period. I'm going to stay in Jiangyuan for a while, so I wanted to ask you out for a get-together. Hearing these hypocritical answers, Fu Jingyan's expression became colder and his patience had reached its limit. On the surface, we haven't seen each other for a long time, and the time and place are right, so I want to sit down and have a drink. But the actual subtext is that Kaixuan is the only large department store in Jiangyuan City, and now that Shanghai has acquired Jialan, they hope that you will give up some of your interests for the sake of our former brotherhood. Without waiting for Shen Jixing to fill the second glass of wine, Fu Jingyan suddenly stood up and left the banquet hall without any mercy. Chapter 29. Jing Nanqing also understood what was said just now. He glanced at Shen Jian and sighed helplessly, then chased after him with his suit jacket in hand. Jian, you? Cheng Yuheng seemed to want to say something but stopped himself. Half of the people at the table had left, and he was in no mood to stay any longer. So he stood up, patted Shen Jian's shoulder meaningfully, and left. In fact, Shen Jian knew this would be the situation long before he came. Without saying a word, he calmly filled the second glass of wine and drank it. Then the third cup. After leaving Jialan, Fu Jingyan finally remembered to look for his cell phone. He needs to report his itinerary to his wife. He had an online meeting on the way here, so he was only focused on his computer and didn't take his phone out of Jing Nanqing's car. Don't think too much, Shen Jian may not mean that. Jing Nanqing followed him, worried that he was angry and wanted to comfort him, but he remembered that he had been criticized by him for the whole morning because of company rumors, and was afraid of being hurt again, so he kept a certain distance. Fu Jingyan ignored him and ran straight to their Maserati in the distance. If you're in a bad mood, I'll go have a drink with you. Jing Nanqing glanced at Jiao Qing and whispered, you go back first, I'll drive. Jiao Qing handed over the car keys with both hands and left tactfully. When approaching the parking spot, Jing Nanqing deliberately locked the car door and parked it. There's a bar nearby, do you want to go? Fu Jingyan's hand that was stretched out to open the door stopped in mid-air, and he looked over with a frown, opened the car. Why don't you come to my house for a drink? Jing Nanqing asked deliberately. Fu Jingyan's face darkened and his voice suddenly turned cold, don't make me say it again. Okay, drive. Hearing his voice, Jing Nanxing couldn't help but shiver and obediently opened the car lock. After opening the car door, Fu Jingyan found his cell phone and immediately checked the messages. As soon as I turned on the screen, 2 missed calls from my wife and 4 WeChat messages from Wanwan popped up. 17:58, if you have a dinner party, I'll go have dinner with my friends tonight. I'm leaving now tilde. 19:36 p.m, I finished eating. I'll have a meeting with GNTR next Monday. I heard Jiolan is also trying to get it. I'm going to do a field investigation and may come home late. 21:01 p.m, are you still busy? Were you not angry when we were in the tea room today? My friend was joking, it was nonsense. 21:37 p.m, the driver called me. Didn't he follow you? Where are you? I just came out of Jiolan. Ask the driver to pick you up. Because he was worried that it would be inconvenient for Yi Qingwan to go home, Fu Jingyan specifically asked the driver to be ready to pick her up at any time, so she followed Jing Nanxing all the way here today. Looking at the messages on his phone, the coldness between his brows instantly dissipated, and his eyes became much softer. After tapping the screen a few times with his bony fingers, Fu Jingyan quickly looked up and around. The last message was sent at 9:37 p.m. It is not yet 10 o'clock, so Yi Qingwan should still be near Jialan. He closed the car door and glanced at Jing Nanxing, who was leaning against the car and looking at him. I'm going to pick up Wanwan, you can take a taxi back. After saying that, she took the car keys from his hand and went straight to the driver's seat. Get in the car, fasten your seatbelt, start the engine, and drive away. All of this didn't even give Jing Nanxing a chance to react. Jing Nanxing watched the taillights of his car disappear on the asphalt road, and paced back and forth on the side of the road incoherently. You? Stop right there. I was going to drive you. I didn't ask you to drive my car away. Jing Nanxing was so angry that he punched the air a few times. Finally, he took out his cell phone and called Gao Qing, come back. Take me home. Chapter 30. It was almost 10 o'clock and the Garland Mall was about to close. Yi Qingwan was standing in front of the billboard outside the side door, thinking about whether to make a third call to Fu Jingyan, when suddenly a WeChat message popped up on his phone. Wanwan, I didn't check my phone just now. Where are you? I'll pick you up. After receiving the reply, Yi Qingwan finally felt relieved. Fortunately, it turned out that he wasn't angry, he just didn't read the message. Seeing Yi Qingwan finally smile, Zhu Qian, who was squatting next to him smoking, smacked his lips and said, did you reply to the message? Yi Qingwan smiled and said, well, he said he would come and pick me up. I told you, he must be busy and didn't have time to reply you. Zhu Qian stood up and stuck the cigarette butt into the ashtray on the trash can. Then can I retreat? You can meet him. After all, Zhu Qiu is a boy. In order to avoid any misunderstandings in the future, Yi Qingwan really wanted to introduce his good friend to Fu Jingyan first. Unexpectedly, Zhu Qian didn't hear these words at all, and her eyes suddenly looked behind her. Fuck. His 2 eyes, as big as grapes, overflowed with unprecedented light. Excellent. The best. What is the best? Yi Qingwan frowned, thinking that Zhu Qian had seen something strange, but turned around and followed his gaze. It turned out to be Fu Jingyan. He walked out of the silver-gray Maserati on the roadside, wearing a suit vest over a white shirt, with his sleeves slightly rolled up and his jacket casually draped over his arms. His hair, which had been styled in the morning, was now a little loose, with 2 strands hanging in front of his forehead. Different from when he was in the company, his steps were orderly and his whole body exuded a lazy air. His body proportions, looks and temperament are so perfect. Seeing him walking towards her, Zhu Qian became even more excited. He was busy fixing his hair, and pulled Yi Qingwan to check her makeup. His coming over here. Come and see if my hair is messy now. Is there any powder stuck on it? Yi Xiaowan, do you think he is coming for me? Yi Qingwan didn't have time to explain. Zhu Qian had already answered his own question, it must be. Oh my god, I declare that from today on he is my top one. Yi Qingwan pulled the corner of his mouth awkwardly, he. Before she could finish the sentence, he is actually my husband, Fu Jingyan had already walked to her side. He naturally put his arm around Yi Qingwan's waist and spoke before she could, Wanwan. An extremely intimate Wanwan entered his ears, and the actions that only occurred in a very close relationship caught his sight, and Zhu Qian was instantly petrified into a statue. He turned his head stiffly to look at Yi Qingwan, his lips trembling. Wan. Wanwan. Yi Qingwan leaned in Fu Jingnian's arms and smiled at Zhu Qian a little embarrassedly. Yun, let me introduce you, this is my husband, Fu Jingnian. After that, she turned her head and raised her eyes to look at Fu Jingnian. Jingnian, this is my only good friend in Jiangyuan, Zhu Qian. Zhu Qian forced out an awkward smile, and a sharp explosion sounded from deep in his heart. Damn it. Let me hit my head and die. I have never been so embarrassed in my life. I was actually crazy about my best friend's husband. I even said in front of her that I wanted to make her husband my top one. Although he was screaming in his heart, he chose to pretend to be calm for the sake of face. It was as if the person who was so excited just now was not me at all. Since he is Yi Qingwan's husband, he must look like a fairy, so even as her best friend, she has to act like one of Yi Qingwan's family members. Chapter 31. Fu Jingnian was indeed almost half a head taller than Zhu Qiu as Yi Qingwan said, so he straightened his back, raised his chin, and tried to increase his altitude. Putting away her infatuation just now, she said coldly, so you are Xiaowan's husband. My name is Zhu Qian, her best sister. When Fu Jingnian heard a boy introducing himself as a sister, there was no strange expression on his face. Hello, Mr. Zhu. He smiled kindly and extended his hand like a gentleman. I remember you, the one who chatted with Wanwan at noon. Yi Qingwan was looking up at him, and her smile froze instantly when she heard these words. Lunchtime chat. Chat at noon. Zhu Qian had just mustered up his courage, but he suddenly lost it after hearing these words. His gaze suddenly shifted to Yi Qingwan, and he exchanged glances with her for a few seconds. You were chatting with him at noon. Then, didn't he see all the discussions about whether he could do it? Yi Qingwan made a bitter face and lowered his head silently. Zhu Qian had a confused expression on his face and suddenly regretted not going home earlier. He suppressed his embarrassment and shook hands with Fu Jingnian, trying to make up for it by adding a few compliments. But unexpectedly, Fu Jingnian spoke first. Where does Mr. Zhu live? Wanwan and I will take you home first. Zhu Qian looked up in shock for a moment, and out of the corner of his eye he caught a glimpse of the cool Maserati on the side of the road. He really wanted to sit on it and feel it, but the current awkward situation did not allow it. My home is very close. It's no trouble. You and Xiaowan can go home quickly. He waved his hands and secretly gave Yi Qingwan a look for help. Yi Qingwan understood, looked up at Fu Jingnian's profile, and said in a soft voice, Yun's house is nearby. Jingnian, take me home first, my feet hurt tilde. Zhu Qian narrowed his eyes and raised the corners of his mouth in satisfaction. This coquettish way of acting is just right. But it is still a little bit short of his level. Perhaps it was the first time that Fu Jingnian heard Yi Qingwan speak in this tone. His ears went numb and his mouth felt dry for some reason. He raised his head and ruffled Yi Qingwan's long, smooth hair, trying his best to suppress the heat that was stirring deep in his heart, and said softly, Okay, let's go home then. Mr. Zhu, we'll leave first. Fu Jingnian nodded slightly. Let's have a meal together some other day if we have a chance. Zhu Qian smiled politely. Yes, okay. After saying that, he said goodbye to Yi Qingwan. When she got back to the car, Yi Qingwan was still feeling anxious. She gently grasped the seat belt in front of her, struggling for a long time. Did he see the WeChat message I sent to him? Should I explain it again? She secretly glanced at the rearview mirror in front of the windshield, looking for a suitable opportunity to speak. At this time, Fu Jingnian was looking straight ahead and concentrating on driving. He turned the steering wheel with one hand. His slender white fingertips looked very beautiful, and the blue veins on the back of his hand were bulging, which was very sexy. As I was staring at the hand in a daze, the car stopped. Yi Qingwan suddenly came to his senses and realized that he had arrived at the garage downstairs of his house. She was just about to unbuckle her seatbelt and get out of the car when Fu Jingnian suddenly locked the car door. Following the click sound, Yi Qingwan looked towards Fu Jingnian in the driver's seat in confusion, and unfortunately their eyes met. What's wrong? You're not going down. Fu Jingnian didn't reply, but stared at Yi Qingwan's star-like eyes for a few seconds, then his gaze slowly moved down and landed on her cherry-red lips. In an instant, he began to lose consciousness and his breathing became increasingly erratic. Subconsciously, I suddenly had the urge to kiss her. Chapter 32. Jinian. This was the first time Fu Jingyan looked at her like this. An inexplicable emotion surged in his heart, and Yi Qingwan couldn't tell whether he was afraid or nervous. She swallowed and asked softly, "Shall we go upstairs?" The voice that was gentle to the bone struck Fu Jingyan's soul deeply. For a moment, he really wanted to throw away all his reason and patience. But he couldn't do that. Although she belonged to him, she did not love him yet. He tried his best to suppress the desire in his heart, raised his hand, pressed the button, and reopened the car door. "Let's go upstairs." His expression gradually returned to normal and he smiled lightly. After the door lock was opened, Yi Qingwan's breath finally dissipated. She quickly opened the door, got out of the car, and rushed out of this hot space. The basement was very cool, which not only dispelled the heat in the body, but also dispelled the confusion in the mind. Fu Jingyan held his suit jacket tightly in his hand and walked in front thoughtfully, while Yi Qingwan followed beside him. She glanced at him secretly from the side, and couldn't help but recall the extremely lustful look just now. Yi Qingwan didn't understand. He clearly had the reactions and desires of a normal man, so why did he have to endure it? Although she herself is more resistant to having a relationship with someone she doesn't love or doesn't understand, she and Fu Jingyan are now a legal couple. If he needs it, as a wife, she will not refuse, and she has no reason to refuse. Could it be that I was not proactive enough and Fu Jingyan was unwilling to force me? This thought first flashed through Yi Qingwan's mind. What followed was what Zhu Qian said to her today. Is it possible that he is waiting for you to love him and give it to him willingly? Rather than fulfilling your wife's obligations. Yi Xiaowan, think about it in a positive way. Maybe he is not incompetent, but a rare good man. Thinking about these words in detail, Yi Qingwan suddenly felt that what Zhu Qiu said made sense. Marry first, fall in love later means choosing a partner who matches you in all aspects, getting married first, and then falling in love. The two of them are not familiar with each other yet and are in the process of getting to know each other. As for whether they love each other or not, in Yi Qingwan's opinion, the word love seems to be still very far away. Fu Jingyan is indeed perfect and impeccable, but she is born slow to warm up, and it may take her a long time to fall in love with someone. Perhaps she should be thankful now that the man she married quickly is a man who respects her and is able to be patient and restrained. If Fu Jingyan was the kind of person who would force her to do something, what kind of disaster that would be, she couldn't imagine. Fu Jingyan had already noticed the gaze from the side. He didn't know what she was thinking, he just hoped that his loss of control in the car just now didn't scare her. From the time they went upstairs until they got home, neither of them spoke, each of them had their own thoughts in their minds. After taking a shower, Yi Qingwan tossed and turned in bed. She wanted to find a topic to break the weird atmosphere. Tomorrow happens to be the weekend, so why not find an activity that can enhance our relationship? Just when I was about to send a message to my bestie asking for a recommendation, Fu Jingyan came back from the study, turned off the lights and lay down in bed. Yi Qingwan sensed the temperature behind him and asked in a low voice, "Jinian? I don't have to go to work tomorrow, do you want to go out for a walk together?" After asking the question, the air in the room seemed to be still for a few seconds. The only sounds left in the silence were Fu Jingyan's deep breathing and her uneasy heartbeat. Just when Yi Qingwan thought Fu Jingyan had fallen asleep, a big warm hand suddenly wrapped around her waist and hugged her tightly without any warning. The next second, a whisper came from my ear, "Call me husband." Chapter 33. The hot breath spread on the back of his neck, and Yi Qingwan only felt numbness in his waist. After falling into this warm embrace, her body involuntarily tensed up. There seemed to be a hint of pleading in Fu Jingyan's commanding tone, and the three words, "Call me husband," echoed repeatedly in Yi Qingwan's ears. She opened her mouth and tried to call him husband naturally, just like introducing him to others, but at this moment, it was as if she was under a spell and she couldn't utter these two words. The expected name did not come out, and Fu Jingyan could not help but tighten his arms around Yi Qingwan. He felt the softness under his palm, which seemed to be slightly stiff. Sensing Yi Qingwan's nervousness, Fu Jingyan gave up waiting, snorted and laughed softly, then soothed her, "Go to sleep, good night." Although this good night sounded very gentle and made Yi Qingwan relax instantly, she was reluctant to close her eyes. Because in addition to tenderness, she also heard loss. Fu Jingyan didn't let go of Yi Qingwan all night. He hugged her tightly, but he was just hugging her. Yi Qingwan's back was pressed tightly against his chest, which was almost hot to the point of burning. She could clearly feel that he was trying his best to restrain the desire in his heart. If two people slept in this position in the past, she might not be able to sleep all night, or even stay awake until dawn. But this time, she slept very soundly, as if she believed from the bottom of her heart that Fu Jingyan would not do anything and just simply hold her. The sunlight almost at noon shines into the bedroom, spreading on the large and soft bed. Yi Qingwan hasn't slept until he wakes up naturally for a long time. From leaving his previous home, to getting married and moving into his own home, to changing jobs and adapting to the environment, life seemed to be fast-forwarded, and he felt an indescribable tiredness. But now, she feels like she is almost getting used to everything. The bed was so comfortable that Yi Qingwan buried his face in the quilt, wanting to stay in bed for a while longer. But when the sleepiness faded, the warmth on her neck suddenly became clear. Yi Qingwan suddenly opened his eyes and realized that he was resting his head on a strong arm. And on her waist, there was another hand gently placed. Woke up. A low, hoarse greeting suddenly came from his ears, and Yi Qingwan sat up immediately. She turned her head to look at Fu Jingyan, whose eyes were clear and not sleepy at all, cleared her throat, and asked, "Have you woken up a long time ago?" Fu Jingyan did wake up very early, but he didn't want to wake Yi Qingwan, so he kept lying in one position and just watched her sleep quietly. He shook his head and chuckled, "Not very early, 10 minutes ago." Yi Qingwan naturally didn't believe it, but she didn't say anything. She just smiled as she looked at Fu Jingyan's arm, which was so numb that he dared not move it. "It's almost noon, Tilda," she yawned and stretched in bed. In order to play the role of a good wife, she asked in a serious manner, "Are you hungry? I'll make you lunch." Fu Jingyan sat up and prepared to get out of bed. "Don't you want to go out for a walk?" Yi Qingwan took 2 seconds to react, and suddenly remembered that she had mentioned going out for a walk last night. She smiled and immediately ran out of bed. "Okay. Let's go out for dinner." After washing up, Yi Qingwan put on a very delicate makeup, picked and chose in the cloakroom, and finally changed into a white knee-length skirt. Thinking of the pain her feet had suffered from wearing high heels these days, she deliberately wore a pair of comfortable flat shoes. Chapter 34. In the past, shopping was not an activity in Fu Jingyan's life. He was always working and always wore a well-tailored suit, looking very formal. But today, in order to avoid looking out of place when standing next to Yi Qingwan, he deliberately took out a few casual clothes from his closet full of custom-made suits and leather shoes. After he came out after changing, Yi Qingwan stared at him for a few seconds. Unlike his previous business-style outfits, today he looks like the big brother next door, without a suit, trousers, tie, leather shoes, or a carefully styled hairstyle. Her loose black hair was casually scattered in front of her forehead, and under her simple grey lapel shirt, she wore a very thin silver necklace. The flat shoes under the light-colored jeans are the same as hers. It's a couple's style. "How is it?" Fu Jingyan waved in front of Yi Qingwan. Yi Qingwan came back to her senses and realized that he was asking her what she thought of her outfit. She looked around carefully, held her chin and hummed deeply. Then he turned his gaze to the face that made his heart tremble every time he looked at it. "Very handsome. I didn't expect you could easily control this style. I thought you were abstinent and cool, but I didn't expect you had 2 faces." However, Yi Qingwan did not say this, as if deliberately keeping the audience in suspense. He gave a meaningful look and turned to walk towards the door. "Can we today?" She just turned around when her wrist was suddenly clamped by a big hand. The next second, he was pulled into Fu Jingyan's arms. Yi Qingwan raised her eyes in panic, only to see Fu Jingyan raising one eyebrow and asking in confusion, "You want to leave before you finish talking?" Yi Qingwan looked at him and suddenly smiled. "Do you want to know? I'll tell you if you guess it right." After saying that, she took advantage of his unpreparedness and quickly slipped away, opened the door and ran away. Fu Jingyan didn't rush to chase after him, but instead put his hands in his pockets, followed slowly with a smile on his face. Before getting married, Yi Qingwan had never been in a relationship. She basically heard about the things that couples do from Juqian, or she observed her surroundings and captured them from life. Because they hadn't eaten yet, Yi Qingwan suggested going to the mall first. However, the relationship between the two is special, so if she goes to Kaishan, she is likely to meet acquaintances. After all, although she doesn't know others, many people know her because of certain rumors. Moreover, Fu Jingyan's face was too eye-catching to be noticed. "Shall we go to Jielan?" Yi Qingwan asked after thinking about it. She went to Jielan not to use the date time to investigate, but because she discovered yesterday that a new hot pot restaurant had opened on the catering floor. The news of Jialan being acquired by Shanghai has not yet been announced, and Yi Qingwan still doesn't know many things. Because of Xinjiang, Fu Jingyan is now more or less disgusted with Jialan, but he doesn't want to spoil Yi Qingwan's fun, so he readily agreed. After parking the car, the two walked into Jialan department store. The handsome man and beautiful woman walked side by side, and passers-by couldn't help but look over. Little did they know that among all these gazes, there was one coming from the observation deck on the second floor of the mall. Xinjiang, dressed in a white suit, stood in the center of the observation deck, his eyes fixed on Fu Jingyan and the stunning beauty beside him. Suddenly, his dimples curved into an arc. The assistant beside him also looked over and asked in a low voice, "Boss Shen, do you want to go over and say hello?" Xinjiang shook his head almost imperceptibly, glancing at the loving, good brother, and couldn't help but sneer in his heart. After 3 years, he finally found his weakness. Chapter 35. The newly opened Hot Pot restaurant is an internet celebrity restaurant and its business is very popular. When the two arrived, there were already a lot of people queuing outside the door, and most of them were young couples. Worried that the queue would be very late, Yi Qingwan looked at Fu Jingyan and asked in a low voice, "Are you hungry now? If so, let's go to another restaurant." On their way here, Fu Jingyan heard Yi Qingwan mention this hot pot restaurant 7 or 8 times. It's understandable that she really wanted to eat it. By the way, this was the first time in 28 years that he had to queue for a meal. "But if my wife wants to eat something, it doesn't matter how long we have to wait in line." Fu Jingyan shook his head and smiled, "I'm fine, how about you?" During the questioning, he was already preparing to send a message to his secretary to acquire the hot pot restaurant. After all, the boss doesn't have to queue. Yi Qingwan touched his stomach and thought for a few seconds, then raised his head and said seriously, "I can still wait." Fu Jingyan, "Okay, let's go sit over there." In order to facilitate customers to wait, many stools are placed outside the hot pot restaurant. Yi Qingwan asked the waiter for a queue number, and took Fu Jingyan to find a seat with fewer people. Just after sitting down for a while, Fu Jingyan suddenly stood up. He lowered his head to Yi Qingwan's ear and whispered, "Wait for me, I'll be back soon." Thinking that he was going to the bathroom, Yi Qingwan nodded quickly, "Okay." Yi Qingwan is very beautiful and stands out among the passers-by. In addition, she was wearing a pure white dress today, so many men passing by cast covetous glances at her. When they first arrived, because Fu Jingyan was beside them and influenced by his powerful aura, no one dared to approach and they just watched secretly from a distance. However, less than 2 minutes after Fu Jingyan left, a boy in his early 20s with a crew cut took out his cell phone and walked towards Yi Qingwan in a ruffian manner. "Miss, would you mind adding me on contact?" The man with the crew cut deliberately moved very close to her, and from time to time he glanced at Yi Qingwan's collar while speaking. Yi Qingwan raised his head and became alert instinctively, subconsciously glancing around for Fu Jingyan. The strange man in front of him had tattoos all over his arms and neck, and piercings on his brow and nose. He had a fierce expression and looked very social. It reminds me of many cases in the news where people asked for contact information and then took extreme measures after being rejected. Out of self-protection, Yi Qingwan took out his phone and responded coldly, "Of course you can add me, but I'm married. Even if you add me, we won't have any other communication. Why are you pretending? You've already agreed to join, why are you still talking about whether we'll get married or not?" The guy with the buzz cut snorted and looked Yi Qingwan up and down, thinking, she looks innocent on the surface, but maybe she is a slut who lets anyone play with her. Thinking about it, he even laughed sarcastically, then held out his phone screen and urged, "Hurry up and add me. When are you free to make an appointment? Make an appointment." Yi Qingwan resisted the urge to smash the phone at his face and stood up to get away from this disrespectful psychopath. Unexpectedly, when the buzz cut boy saw her leaving, he actually reached out and grabbed her shoulders, saying in dissatisfaction, "Are you kidding me?" After saying that, he was ready to use brute force to pull Yi Qingwan back. At the critical moment, the wrist of the man with a crew cut on Yi Qingwan's shoulder was clamped tightly by a big hand that suddenly appeared. The hand was so strong that it almost crushed his bones. Chapter 36. The man with the crew cut wailed. Then he raised his head, cursing and trembling. However, when he met the pair of dark and terrifying eyes above his head, all the dirty words were stuck in his throat and he fell silent instantly. Fu Jingyan's cold gaze gathered like a sharp blade, quickly and accurately pressing against the vital points of the crew-haired man. If you don't want to die, apologize now. His voice was not loud, but it was enough to send shivers down the spine of those around him. At this moment, the ruffian spirit of the buzz-cut man had been completely crushed by Fu Jingnian's fierce voice. He had been acting like a gangster just now, but now he was cowering like a rat crossing the street. If he were to replace a man of similar height and build, he would have to ask, "Who the hell are you to meddle in my business?" Looking at this man who was almost a head taller than him and had a strong aura, the man with the crew cut immediately gave in and quickly bowed to Yi Qingwan to apologize. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Seeing that more and more people were watching, Yi Qingwan quickly tugged at the corner of Fu Jingnian's clothes and whispered, "Okay, let him go, let's go eat." Fu Jingnian lowered his eyes, glanced at the fancy wrist in his hand, and loosened his fingers in disgust. It was not until the gangster ran out of his sight with his head hung that his expression returned to normal. Yi Qingwan glanced at the milk tea in Fu Jingnian's hand and quickly changed the subject. "How do you know I want to drink milk tea?" After saying that, she happily took out a cup from the bag, inserted a straw, and gulped down a few big gulps. The reason why he bought milk tea was that when he was sitting here waiting just now, Fu Jingnian saw that almost all the young couples had a cup in their hands. He wondered if all the couples would buy it, so he bought 2 cups for himself. But if he had known that Yi Qingwan would be harassed and almost in danger while buying a cup of milk tea, he would definitely take her with him. The queue was not as slow as expected, and soon it was their turn. After sitting down, Fu Jingnian ordered the dishes. Double-boiled hot pot, the ingredients are unknown. Halfway through the meal, Yi Qingwan noticed that dishes were being brought to the table endlessly, and only then did she realize that Fu Jingnian had ordered almost all the dishes on the menu. Although she wanted to eat hot pot, it was a bit too much to order more than a dozen plates of meat for 2 people. Did we order too much? Yi Qingwan picked up a rattle roll and put it into the pot, then looked up at Fu Jingnian. Fu Jingnian was fiddling with the coriander in the seasoning and his eyes quickly swept across the table. A lot. It was not much for him, because when he was at home, he would have at least 4 dishes and a soup when he ate alone. If he was at the old house, almost every meal would have a table full of delicious dishes. Because my grandmother always said that it is not important whether you can finish the food, what is important is whether you eat well. Besides, if he doesn't order everything, how can he observe what Yi Qingwan likes to eat? Hearing his nonchalant tone, Yi Qingwan coughed lightly. "It's okay. It's okay." Whether it was more or less was not the point now. She suddenly realized that Fu Jingnian didn't seem to eat coriander. She brought the seasoning back with her, and since she didn't know his taste, she mixed it according to her own preferences. Looking at Fu Jingnian who was picking coriander silently, Yi Qingwan suddenly felt a little guilty. "I should have asked." She used the excuse of going to the bathroom, and came back with a bowl of seasoning without coriander and placed it next to Fu Jingnian. "Stupid, you don't even know how to say anything." The sound of "idiot" was so soft that it could be ignored, but Fu Jingnian still heard it. He stared at the bowl of seasoning at hand, and couldn't help but curl the corners of his mouth. Then he pushed the original seasoning aside and continued eating. Chapter 37. Jialan was acquired by Shanghai. While they were eating, Fu Jingnian suddenly said this. Yi Qingwan's chopstick stopped mid-air and asked in surprise, "Shanghai International?" Shanghai International is a multinational company that has just been listed in recent years. Although its assets are not as strong as Wanhang International, it has excellent resources in recent years and its total market value has exceeded $100 billion. It can be said to be a dark horse that cannot be underestimated. If Jialan is acquired by Shanghai, although Jialan will not be able to keep pace with Kaixuan, for GNTR, if Jialan cannot take over Kaixuan's shops, it is completely acceptable. In fact, it is no longer a second best option. It's just that the news of the acquisition has not been announced yet, and everyone is also paying attention to the relevant corporate information news. Is there any information gap between her and Fu Jingnian? Yi Qingwan put the meat into the bowl and asked. There has been no news report recently. How did you know? Want to know? I'll tell you if you guess it right. Fu Jingnian narrowed his eyes and smiled, and asked in a normal chat tone, I'm going to meet with the GNTR brand next week. Are you nervous? Yi Qingwan wrinkled his nose and muttered, You didn't say that before Shanghai acquired Jialan, you were still quite confident. Jialan is also trying to acquire GNTR. The store location they are willing to offer is better than that of Kaixin. Our advantage was very obvious before, but if we really acquire it, if the acquisition really happens, the chances of success will be greatly reduced. Yi Qingwan did not continue speaking. Keep your confidence, it's okay. Fu Jingnian encouraged. Every time when Yi Qingwan lacked confidence, Fu Jingnian would encourage her like this, even during the previous interview. Strangely enough, after hearing his words, she felt much more at ease. It was as if this was not a big deal at all, just an ordinary cooperation negotiation that could not be more ordinary. Yi Qingwan pursed her lips and smiled softly, "I'll lend you my words." After spending 2 days together over the weekend, Yi Qingwan suddenly felt a lot more familiar with Fu Jingnian. The two of them were very reserved and didn't talk much when they first met, but now they can sit together and chat and laugh happily, and the topic never goes dull. For a slow to warm up person like Yi Qingwan, being willing to let down his guard and chat with others in such a short period of time is undoubtedly a huge boost. But thanks to Fu Jingnian's way of chatting, people feel very comfortable. The knowledge in his head seemed to be beyond description. No matter what topic they talked about, he could always explain it to Yi Qingwan accurately and patiently, and he would not be arrogant because of his talent. But this newly developed sense of familiarity miraculously returned to the time before liberation when I returned to the company on Monday. The two went to the company together as usual. Yi Qingwan clearly got off the car early, but she still happened to meet Fu Jingnian while waiting for the elevator. She thought, since the relationship was hidden, she might as well say hello like a normal colleague. The fact that they didn't say a word when they met made it even more suspicious. After all, the topic of Vice President Fu helping Vice Manager Yi to resolve the issue was still circulating in the company building. "Vice President Fu, good morning." Yi Qingwan pretended to be unfamiliar. But unexpectedly, Fu Jingnian looked straight ahead and did not answer. Not even a slight nod. Yi Qingwan. He had clearly said good morning to her gently when they were having breakfast at home, but now he was as cold as an iceberg, as if she had just hallucinated in the morning. Fortunately, the elevator reached the first floor at this time. In order to hide the embarrassment, Yi Qingwan quickly slipped in as soon as the door opened. But unfortunately, the scene of her greeting Fu Jingnian just now was seen by Qin Meng, who was waiting for the elevator nearby.